I can't imagine how low his picks would have been on my list, but
it wouldn't even cross my mind as something to consider.
And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, December 2nd. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by No House Advantage. 11-game NBA slate here for us. Not a bad slate. It's going to be pretty ridiculous, I think, in that 6:45 to 7 o'clock window because we have 5 games that tip off at 7:30. Have a couple Q tags that are going to be interesting, but I don't mind this slate at all. I'm excited to break it down because I didn't do the strategy show today. It's always more fun for me to come in with fresh eyes on a Friday. So before we get it started, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell until so you know when we go live. Adam, how are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this slate too, and I agree. We're probably going to get some interesting news before lock and have to scramble a little bit. But yeah, it seems like a pretty fun slate. I'm looking forward to it just because we didn't have basketball yesterday. I am pissed off because I was trying to get the last of my prop bets in, and I got kicked off the site because I'm in Zoom now, so can't get those in. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Can you do it on your phone at the same time?
I mean, I can, but it's just going to be me on my phone, not like it. It's easier to just do it on the computer. I'll do it after the show.
Interesting. That's so weird. You're going to need a second computer.
Yeah, it just like it has to do with being in Zoom. I don't know why, but
you should buy a Chromebook. Like $100, just only ever leave that one open.
Yeah, but like the only time it's ever an issue is for like this 1 hour.
It does.
Sure, but like this is a pretty important hour where news is going to come out and you're going to want to react to bets.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, I'm not just saying it like, oh, well, hey, then you have a computer for an hour a day.
Right. But I mean, like something like that, I can just get on my phone pretty quickly. But like,
okay,
I don't want to just like search odds and stuff while I'm doing the show.
Fair. Well, we got 11 games to break down. Some places are going to go pretty quickly. Some we're probably going to have to spend some time. But at this point, I am ready to just dive in if you are.
Yeah.
Actually, when I say that I'm ready to dive in, I'm going to update the ownership that we ran 12 minutes ago and drop that into my sheet just to give us the full-on update. Okay, well, highest owned guy on DraftKings is going to be worth a conversation for me now, but we'll get there. The Washington Wizards are 3-point favorites in Charlotte, 225 total. For your Wizards, not much to talk about right now. No Rui Hachimura, no DeLon Wright. We're pretty used to this at this point. So we're not really getting any double digits in ownership for Washington on the DK side. Kyle Kuzma is at 9%. He's 7,600 on FanDuel, does have the MPE. He's up to 17%. I think that's pretty reasonable given the minutes and the role that he's had recently. Do you see anything for your Wizards today?
I think Porzingis looks good. The caveat is that he's center only on DraftKings, so you can only look so good because there are going to be a lot of centers that you want to get to. But he's been playing more minutes, just like you just alluded to with Kuzma. Over the last 10 games or so, Kuzma's averaging around 37 minutes. Porzingis is at like 34. Porzingis is a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy in the games that Beal has played this year. Pulling 8% ownership on DraftKings. Kuzma at 8K is pulling 9%. I think both of those guys look relatively interesting. Porzingis is the one that I really like out of the two.
Oh man, you got through that Porzingis sentence way too fast for that sip of water. Yeah, I would have no problem getting to Porzingis. It's just 8,700 in center only. It becomes complicated on a big slate because we have no shortage of center plays every single night. And while I like him, it's just going to be hard to ever call him like a priority on a day like today.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I do think
he's clearly looks good.
I think he's going a little bit under-owned, but also if you go different routes at center, it's not like I'm going to fault you because there's a lot of good plays.
Yeah, there's a couple dudes where you could just be like, yeah, you could swap Porzingis out for this guy right now, and it's just like, okay, yeah, these are 55-45 type decision points. I feel like this season we basically like haven't even needed to say Bradley Beal's name.
Yeah, we really haven't because he's well, for one, he's been out for part of the year, but
Yeah.
also he's just not been the same scoring threat that he has been in the past. He's taken on a bigger playmaking role. He's still a relatively high usage guy. He's got a 26% usage rate in the games that he's played with Porzingis and Kuzma, but by comparison, Porzingis is at about 26%, Kuzma's at about 26%. So you're getting those guys pretty much sharing the scoring workload, as opposed to in the past, it would just be Bradley Beal every single game doing everything offensively. I think this is very good for the Wizards. It's not very good for Bradley Beal from a fantasy standpoint. It basically just leaves you in the situation where you're saying, well, Beal's going to play 37, 38 minutes. I'm sure he's going to have some games between now and the end of the year where he just goes nuts. But unless you're just going to decide you're chasing Bradley Beal every single day, hoping for those 1 or 2 games, I don't see anything that makes him look overly appealing here. I would rather get the Porzingis or Kuzma.
Agreed. On the Hornets side, things are a little bit different than they are on the Wizards side, that's for sure. For the Hornets, we are still without LaMelo, but I believe he's going to be back shortly. Dennis Smith Jr. still out. I think he is also should be back imminently. Still no Cody Martin or Gordon Hayward. Both of those guys are going to be out for the foreseeable future. But we do get Terry Rozier back off the injury report. He did miss Monday's game. They have not played in a couple days, which is interesting to see. Now, this team is pulling some ownership. Rozier, Oubre, PJ Washington, Mason Plumlee, Jalen McDaniels to a degree, but those first 4 names are all 10 to 15% owned. On the FanDuel side, we get Rozier and Jalen McDaniels north of 20% ownership. All those other guys that I mentioned are still around 10. Seems like everything that's a real NBA player that plays minutes for the Hornets today is a decent play.
Yeah, I think they look good. They're just still a little bit inexpensive. Terry Rozier is sitting at 7,600. I expect him to come back and play 36, 37 minutes. He's got about a 28.5% usage rate in the games he's played without LaMelo and Hayward. Averages around the fantasy point per minute, but also has shot really, really poorly without those guys on the floor. So it's likely that going forward, you see increased production from him. PJ Washington's still pretty cheap at 5,500. Obviously, you always have a lot of foul risk with him, but in games where he's not in foul trouble, you're typically getting 34 plus minutes. He's averaging about 33 per game over his last 10, which does include some games where he's been in foul trouble. So I think he's a little bit underpriced. Oubre, is going to go out there and chuck. I think he's actually, of the 4 that are getting ownership, the one that I'll probably get to the least. I'm just a little bit lower on him projection-wise, but I still think he's a perfectly fine option. And then Mason Plumlee, cheap center, 5,300, should give you 28 to 30 minutes. He's a little over a fantasy point per minute without Hayward and Ball on the floor this year. So another center option, one of many on this slate, that's going to look good.
We have Teo Maledon at 12% ownership on FanDuel right now, $4,100 point guard. That seems a little high to me.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 24 or 25 minutes, but
Same.
Still just on this slate, seems like you can find better things to do.
Yeah, you're going to find a lot of guys that have that sort of baseline. So, I don't know. I don't see it. Weird. The guy that I'm getting to Terry Rozier quite a bit on FanDuel, 7,400 there. Doesn't have the shooting guard small forward. He's point guard shooting guard, but either way, you get 2. There's no utility, so 2 is just the same thing no matter what position it really is. And then I'm also getting to McDaniels, 4,500, should play around 30 minutes. Just power forward eligible, which is kind of annoying, but just a value play that's priced probably a couple $100 cheaper than he should be with Gordon Hayward out. I guess I don't have anything else here for the Hornets. I agree with you, by the way, that Oubre is the guy that I'm getting to sort of the least of this group. Not that he's not good. He's a fantasy point per minute guy playing 30 something plus minutes. Clearly he can get there, but he is the guy that is getting pinched out of anybody for the Hornets.
Yeah, agreed.
To the Denver Nuggets we go. 3.5 point favorites in Atlanta, 228 total. This one's going to just be worthless on the opposite side, at least for right now. Q-tag on Jamal Murray got added to the injury report this afternoon. Michael Porter Jr. still out. Jeff Green doubtful. How are you handling Jamal Murray right now? Because this is obviously pretty important.
Yeah, I have him in for right now. I'm glad it's a 7:30 game. I don't like that he was downgraded midday. I don't like that Jamal Murray just in general has a very long injury history. So I'm glad it's a 7:30 game. Hopefully we get this news. And there is only the one 7 o'clock game too. Granted, there are a lot of guys that we want to play from that game, so I wouldn't just skip it. But we don't have Murray news. But yeah, glad this game's at 7:30. 1, because the Atlanta side is an absolute mess, and then 2, because the Jamal Murray news is obviously huge, because if he's in, I think he looks good. He's not getting a lot of ownership today. We talked about it on the strategy show this morning that his playing time has been trending up a bit. His production's been trending up. It seems like he's healthy. Again, now he's questionable, so maybe not, but he's been healthy. And at 7,100, getting 2% ownership, that just seems really low to me. I have him in for 32 minutes, but if this game's competitive, you could easily get 34, 35 if he goes. So if Murray plays, I like him in tournaments. If he doesn't play, it's going to open the door for some combination, not only of increased usage for Jokic and Gordon and these guys, but also for more playing time for Bones Highland, who we know is a very high usage guy, potentially more playing time for Ish Smith. That hasn't been the case earlier in the year, but with Michael Porter Jr. already out, Bruce Brown is starting in his place. So maybe they go, maybe they throw some placeholder into the lineup and you get like Bruce Brown starting in place of Murray and, Reed or Chanchar or something starting in place of Porter. But you could also get Ish Smith starting in place of Murray, in which case he's going to look like a great value option.
Let's just say for 1 second that Jamal Murray ends up out. How many minutes are you willing to go to Bones Highland right now? Because he is a little bit of a question mark here.
Yeah, I think he's a big question mark. Like, he hasn't played in however long, and he was sick. I have him in for 22 minutes right now, assuming that Murray plays. I think I'd go to like 24, 26 if Murray is out.
Okay. I think we're on the same page. Because, how do you read into Wednesday for Highland?
You mean that he was active and didn't play?
Yes.
Doesn't make me very confident.
No, I don't. That's really weired, right?
I actually thought that
he didn't need to be activated.
Yeah, I thought maybe I was like misremembering it because I was like, I'm almost positive that I projected Highland minutes last game, and then I looked at the rotation and he wasn't there. But on the other hand, one reason why I don't want to get too concerned about it is one trend that we've definitely seen going back to 2020 when we started with all the COVID stuff is frequently when players are out, have COVID, have an illness, whatever, they're out, then they come back, but they don't play that first game. Typically, they just come back and play normal minutes the second game. It's when players have come right off of the injury report when they're sick and then get thrown into a game. That's typically when we see the minutes limit. So there is some chance that Highland still just isn't at full strength. But then the flip side to that is very frequently when we've seen this sort of situation, it's, now he's just good to go. He just practiced for 2 more days and now his conditioning's fine.
Yeah, he's going to be really tricky. I'm just happy that he didn't get like a weird price and he was like accidentally min salary because he had been out. Still 5,900 on DraftKings, 6,100 on FanDuel. So you do want to get the assumption that he is just simply in and playing a bunch of minutes before you make that turn. It shocked me. When I saw that he didn't play, I was just like, oh, they must have just added him back to the injury report. And then I checked the game notes and I was like, oh no, he just got a straight DNP CD. That's incredibly confusing. How do you feel about the Bruce Brown ownership coming in today? 15% on DraftKings, 19% right now on FanDuel, where he does not have an MPE. He's 6,100. I like Bruce Brown generally. I think he projects pretty well. But at the same time, I'm a little surprised to see it.
Yeah, I am too. And because I do think he projects reasonably well, but I don't think he looks overly good here, especially assuming Jamal Murray is in. If Jamal Murray is out, Bruce Brown's rates are going to go up and he's going to look a little bit better. But to me, he projects as somebody that looks like a pretty good play. And if he were low owned, I would like him as a contrarian piece. If he's going to be popular, I don't mind just sort of going elsewhere.
Okay, we're on the same page there because I'm not really getting to him on the FanDuel side. I consider that 19% number to be like pretty heavily over-owned. So I'm glad that you and I have him in for 33.
Okay, I have him at 34 minutes. He started 5 games with Murray and Jokic this year. He's averaged 0.83 DraftKings points per minute in 32.8 minutes per game. So I don't think there's anything I don't think I'm like just wildly off anywhere. I have him at 0.84 DraftKings points per minute. I have him playing 34 minutes. I have him at 28.5 DraftKings points. I don't know why he's getting this much ownership.
I have him at 33 minutes, 0.88 on FanDuel. Like, we're talking about basically the exact same projection. So yeah, we're on the same page. If we lop off Murray and we find out Bones is out, there's more creation and whatever for Bruce Brown going around, that projection is going to come up, but is the ownership going to go along with it? Because then I'm probably just going to end up in the exact same spot. But that was the one piece that I wanted to touch on. Do we have anything that we need to say other than if you get to Nikola Jokic, enjoy it?
No, pretty much that. Again, if Murray is out, you do get the same situation that Jokic, was just an absolute monster in last year. So his production should go up if Murray is out. We already know Porter is out. You're going to get, increased playmaking, increased usage. But other than that, Jokic, if we assume Murray is in, he's still a really good point per minute guy, but his rates are down this year from last year. He's also not playing as many minutes. He's averaging around 32 minutes per game. And on this slate, not only do you have a lot of really good mid-range centers, you also have Embiid at that same price point that is playing without everybody. So, if Murray is in, it's hard to, really compare Jokic to Embiid. So if you get there, great, but not anything I'm going out of my way to get to.
Anything else for the Denver Nuggets?
Nope.
Can we even do anything here?
Nope. This is the only team today that I haven't even tried to project yet.
So there's obviously I think there are some actionable items, even if it breaks the wrong way. But for Atlanta, we know that DeAndre Hunter is out. We know that John Collins is out. We know that Justin Holiday and Trent Forrest are all out. Q tag on Trae Young obviously changes every single possible item for this entire slate, really, if he ends up out. Clint Capella, also questionable. We don't know if Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to make his season debut today. And Jalen Johnson, who you would just sort of assume is going to be the starting power forward in John Collins' place, is also questionable. Yeah. So, I kind of like DeJounte Murray as a contrarian option if everybody's in. That's really the only thing that I think that I can say at this point. Play Onyeka Okongwu more if Clint Capella ends up out. Play DeJounte Murray everywhere if Trae Young ends up out, right?
Yeah, so I tried to touch on this in the injury report video earlier, and it still just ended up being me kind of just talking in circles because there's so many different ways this can break and so many question marks. But the things that I think you can say with confidence, if Clint Capella is out, Onyeka Okongwu looks very, very good at $4,200. He hasn't produced well in his first couple of starts without Capella this year, but overall, he's a good fantasy point per minute guy. He's played north of 30 minutes in those games. You also don't have John Collins here, so that should be a benefit for Okongwu as well. So if Capella's out, Okongwu looks really, really good. I saw somebody in chat say that he thought we were playing Okongwu regardless. I'm not playing Okongwu if Capella's in. I have him for 18 minutes right now. But if Capella's out, by all means, play Okongwu. If Trae Young is out, play DeJounte Murray. You're going to get a nice bump in production for Murray, huge deal for him. So those are the two things where you can point to something and say very straightforward, this is going to happen if these guys are out. Beyond that, it's an absolute mess because you have Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is questionable. On top of that, I don't know how many minutes he's playing if he does play. I don't know I assume he's on some sort of minutes restriction. I don't know what it would be. He is a capable, playmaker, ball handler, all of that. But he also typically in the past, when he's out there with your Trae Young type guys, he will defer. He's not a, Dylan Brooks type guy that's going to just, decide that some possessions are his. So I don't really expect him to be a huge negative for, if Trae Young's out and Bogdan is in, I still don't think it's a big negative for DeJounte Murray. I still think Murray looks great. But then the other question mark is the starting lineup, because we know Hunter's out, we know Collins is out. Let's say Trae Young is in, Young is starting, Murray's starting, and then either Capella or Okongwu are starting. I don't know if Bogdan is starting if he's in. I don't know if they'll bring him off the bench. Jalen Johnson, if he is in, I don't know if he is starting. I don't know if he's coming off the bench because he's kind of been phased out of not out of the rotation, but he's had his minutes kind of scaled back. They haven't been thrilled with, with the way he'd been playing. So you've been seeing John Collins take more of those minutes. Last game, you saw Jarrett Culver come out of nowhere and play 1 million minutes, including starting when Collins got hurt. So I don't know if they would start Jarrett Culver and go to, keep Jalen Johnson in his role off the bench. I assume AJ Griffin will start in place of DeAndre Hunter, but they went with Krejci in the second half last game. I think that was probably just to keep the rotations intact for that game, but I have no idea who's in this starting lineup, and I also don't know who is playing for this team.
It's really weird. There's just not much more we can say until we get more information. I hope that we get it before 6:45. Who the hell knows? But there are too many different scenarios where this guy could be in, this guy could be out. My assumption is Griffin's going to start, but it could be Bogdanovic if they want to just manage his rotation of 4 5-minute stints at the start of all 4 quarters, like we see teams do from time to time. There's so much swing stuff here. If Culver starts, I assume you're at least mildly interested at 3,700.
Yeah, no idea what you're going to get from him. We've seen him play a total of 33 minutes with this team. He's averaged 0.93 DraftKings points per minute. Don't think. Did he even really play last year? When was the last time he really played with Minnesota?
You're asking the wrong guy. Wasn't he on Memphis?
Maybe. Yeah, he was on Memphis last year. Played 37 games. For his career, he's a 0.8 DraftKings point per minute guy, and that's been pretty much everywhere. 0.79 in Minnesota, 0.79 in Minnesota, 0.84 in Memphis, and then he's only played 3 games this year. So if he's starting, sure, he's cheap. I would probably give him if he is starting and Jalen Johnson is in, I would probably give him like, I don't know, 26, 28 minutes.
Yeah.
The other thing with this team you have to keep in mind, they could potentially be really shorthanded because not only are Hunter and Collins out, Justin Holiday is out, and Trent Forrest is out. Those guys both are like fringe rotation guys here.
Yeah.
Frank Kaminsky is questionable. They had him playing minutes at the 4 last game alongside Okongwu. So if you have Culver starting and you have like Bogdanovich, Johnson, Kaminsky out in addition to all these other guys, then I'm giving Culver a ton of minutes. But if we assume the questionable guys are in and that Culver is starting, I think 26, 28 minutes is pretty reasonable.
Yeah. They have 7 active bodies that don't have an injury designation. Murray, Griffin, Okongwu, Aaron Holiday, Jarrett Culver, Krejci, and Jared Roden, whatever that is.
Didn't know about him.
Yeah. And then they have Trey, Capella, Bogdanovich, Jalen Johnson, and Kaminsky all with Q tags. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So minimum 7, maximum 12 available dudes. If we get 10, you kind of know how to project that rotation. I assume we get everybody. I don't know if we get Jared Roden or not, but that's just a thing that exists. I believe Tyrese Martin is with the G League team. We just need the news. There's not really anything else we could say about Atlanta. DeJounte Murray, let's just put one pin in it. If Trae Young is out, DeJounte Murray is one of the best plays on today's slate.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like the price tags come down because he hasn't played as well recently, and that's something that you expect playing alongside Trae Young. But 278 minutes this year without Young on the floor, 1.24 DraftKings points per minute, which is obviously really good, and it's a bump from where he's normally at. But also the rates just give you an idea of how high the ceiling is. 30% usage rate, 40.3% assist percentage in those 278 minutes without Collins or Young on the floor. 153 minutes, about the same production. So yeah, like at the very least, he just looks really good. And then I expect that you would actually see those rates go up over a larger sample too, or not the rates, the actual production.
These guys are going to end up out. DeJounte Murray's going to be like, oh my God, did I get traded back to the Spurs?
Right.
Anything else for Atlanta?
No, just kind of wait and see.
Yeah. Okay. So schedule for the rest of the day. This is pretty easy. Live Before Lock coming up next at 6 p.m. And then that's just it. We're done for the day. So pretty easy. Nothing crazy there. If you're looking to get in and check out what we've got going on, though, we are offering 3 days of free Stokastic Plus Platinum. If you have never signed up with us before, there's a link in the description of this video. You can click it, sign up, get a taste of everything behind the paywall for 3 days, 72 hours. So you would get today, you would get Saturday, you get NFL Sunday as well. So if you're ever going to do this, today would sort of be the day that you wanted to do it if you were trying to check out multiple sports across a stretch. We've got a UFC card this Saturday. Soccer, obviously, going on. We've got the World Cup. Adam, super pumped for tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So that's exciting. He's a soccer convert now.
Never thought I'd see the day I asked to wake up earlier so I can watch soccer.
And this happened in like 2.5 weeks. From this whole sport sucks and I don't care to, can we move the show, please?
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't watched a single minute outside of the U.S. games, but I have enjoyed watching the U.S. games.
Well, now we're going to start getting to the point where you should actually want to watch some of these games because it's like ultra high-end soccer.
But I don't care about high-end soccer. I just care about rooting for the U.S. team. Like, I don't care who wins Netherlands versus whatever other teams are good because
whatever team that they play after they beat us.
Yeah. Like, I don't care. I don't care. I was going to say Germany, but I do know they lost. But yeah, like I don't care about high-end soccer. It doesn't mean anything to me. I just want a rooting interest.
There we go. Check it all out, everybody. The Miami Heat are 7-point dogs in Boston, 226 total in that one. For Miami, starting to get everybody back. Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, and Haywood Highsmith are all listed as probable. Obviously, still no Oladipo or Yurtseven. Q-tag on Dedmon, Q-tag on Jovic, probably not all that relevant. So, looks like we're getting the band back together in Miami. And if that's the case, I don't want to play any of these dudes.
Yeah, nothing that looks particularly good to me. The only piece from Miami that I have basically grading out positively is Bam, but you sort of have to keep that in the context of he's center only on DraftKings at 8,100. So like, I think he's a little bit underpriced in terms of his salary and his production, but like, I think Porzingis looks better for 500 more. I think a lot of other centers are going to look better at different price points. So I really don't have much for Miami. I thought that they would be more expensive by this point with Butler coming back, but still, they're just at price points that I'm probably not going to get to.
Sean V, it's an awful sport. Nobody ever scores. You're in no position to be talking about things that don't score. Come on now.
I mean, that is the first thing I think he's ever said that I agree with.
Look, I tweeted it. It's the same situation. They just need to start counting goals as 7. So everybody in America
I don't like
shuts
football
up.
either. I don't know why you keep going.
Not you.
Okay. Yeah.
For everybody in general. They need 7, and then they need some sort of mechanism where you can get half goals for 3. Everybody will just shut the hell up.
Yeah, I'll say if you're coming after me, you can easily go to baseball where they also don't score.
Yeah. Insanity.
I will concede that a lot of it for me, I'm sure, is just not understanding strategy or what I'm watching, which is the case for like anything. Like I never liked MMA until it was the only sport going on, so I had to learn what was going on.
So what you're saying is we need another pandemic so that you can understand other sports?
Yeah.
Perfect. Nailed it. The Boston Celtics are playing today. They are taking on the Miami Heat. Everybody that's normally available is available. Evidently, Robert Williams has started to scrimmage, so this incredible Boston team is about to get even more incredible. I love it. I love Boston. Interesting game here. Jaylen Brown, 11% owned. Marcus Smart's right around 10. Similar story on the FanDuel side. Al Horford gets a little bit of love. He's 5,400 on FanDuel. Jaylen Brown's price went down. That's a thing that happened, apparently. I still like Jaylen Brown quite a bit today.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed when I saw his price went down because I've already had an issue playing him too much. And now he's sitting at 8K, averaging about 35 minutes per game, has about a 30% usage rate for the year. Not a great matchup, obviously, against Miami, but still a 117 implied total for Boston. Shooting guard, small forward on DraftKings. I think he's pretty easily the top guy to get to. I almost said from the Red Sox, from the Celtics.
Yeah, I think he looks really good here. Tatum is once again just at a price point where he's like Nikola Jokic. If he ends up in lineups, I'm really happy about it because he's fun to watch and scores a lot of points. But at the same time, he's kind of appropriately priced at this point. Do you want anything else from Boston?
You said it with Tatum. If you get there, great. But there's a lot of guys that look like that on this slate. I do think he, for me at least, projects behind Curry in particular at that price point. Then you also have him competing with John Morant. He's not that much less expensive than Durant or Jokic or Embiid. So a lot of guys to get to there. But clearly, you're not making a mistake or anything if you get to Jason Tatum. He's really good. Marcus Smart, if he lands in some lineups here and there, is fine. But the only guy that I would say is remotely close to like any sort of a priority is Brown.
The Toronto Raptors are 2-point underdogs in Brooklyn, 224 total. Still no Otto Porter or Precious Achiuwa. Boucher is not on the injury report. And this is another team that looks a lot like Miami in that they are not all that interesting. 5% owned Van Vliet or Siakam is the high on DraftKings. Similar story for Siakam on FanDuel. If I were getting to anybody, I would want to get to Siakam. Power forward center, just the best player on the Raptors. But the more likely scenario is that I am not going to be playing Raptors.
I really like the idea of Pascal Siakam. I don't know how much I'm going to get to, and I feel like if I don't get to a lot, it's going to end up pissing me off when he has a big game. But he played 30 minutes in his first game back. He played 34 last game and lost 2.5 minutes to garbage time. So looked pretty clear that Toronto was willing to get him up into that 36-minute range. I projected him for 36 minutes today. I wouldn't be shocked if you just see Siakam go out there and give you 38, 39 minutes. And he's been excellent this year. We saw it prior to the injury that he had north of a 30% assist percentage, around the 30% usage rate. He's playing huge minutes. And his price tag is falling slowly. He's at 9,300 on DraftKings, but now he also has power forward eligibility. So you don't have that same opportunity cost that you did when he was center only. So everything's kind of lining up for Siakam to just be a tournament winning play sooner than later. I really like the idea of getting there today. I think I will get some, 5%'s low, but it is a slate where it's just really difficult to point to Siakam and say oh yeah, I'm just going to jam him in everywhere at the expense of 100 other plays that I like. But Siakam does stand out. And then similarly, Van Vliet at only 7,300 is interesting to me. Didn't play a lot of minutes last game. I don't remember if he got hurt or what, but I know he wasn't on the injury report today. I have him in for 36 minutes. He wasn't very productive when Siakam was in earlier in the year. He was still averaging about a fantasy point per minute, even on 18% usage. I do think that as the season goes on, you're going to see that usage rate come up, even if it doesn't get back to where it was last year at 23 or 24%. I think you see it get closer to the 20% mark. So Siakam and Van Vliet, both interesting to me. Outside of that, I have no interest in Toronto.
Evidently, Van Vliet got the gate.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And I want to point out one thing here, and I don't mean this in any sort of negative way, but I want people to sort of understand it. James Green said, I drafted Siakam a lot today. I love to hear it. The sort of takes that we're having here should, I assume you mean in like a tiers scenario or like a snake draft scenario for this sort of stuff. The takes that we have here are very salary dependent. You would have heard us talk very differently about Pascal Siakam if he were like 10,500 on today's slate, but it wouldn't change what we actually thought about Pascal Siakam's outlook. Like, we have Pascal Siakam projected one way, and whether we like him is sort of based on his price and the rest of his ownership, not necessarily like what we think of Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, so basically, it really just depends on where, like, what you mean by you drafted him and where. If you're talking like underdog or something and you were taking him ahead of like Kevin Durant, you shouldn't have been. But I'll play Siakam probably before I play Durant on DraftKings because he's $1,700 less. If you just meant like you've built a bunch of lineups already and have a lot of Siakam, then great. Be ready to change all of your lineups when we get Atlanta news. But yeah, so it really just depends on what you mean. But like you can just in general, because like obviously it's, I guess, a good time to mention it because we always get, the one or two people like, oh, talk more about FanDuel, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be pretty much the same. Like, we're talking about the games, we're talking about, production and everything. If there's a obvious discrepancy in price, you try and mention it, but also if you see it, then you can kind of figure it out for yourself. But outside of salary cap games, like if you're talking about doing underdog drafts or whatever, like it's not apples to apples.
Brad, take the shit out of your ears, man. Seriously. Not everything has to be a thing. Trying to explain something to someone else in chat. Yes, I understand that salaries work. I'm talking to someone else. I wouldn't expect you to understand anything that comes out of our mouths during these shows. Good God. The Brooklyn Nets on the opposite side. Still no Ben Simmons. I just want him to be back. I really do. Somebody is back, though. Welcome back, TJ Warren. Has not played basketball in like 300 and something days. Or sorry, 700 and something days at this point. Yeah, it's like 2 years. It's fascinating to me because if TJ Warren gets back to being healthy, it is like a really crazy 30-something minute a game wing defender guy that would be great for Brooklyn in the playoffs. So I'm really interested to see him. But with no Ben Simmons around, I'm going straight back to 8,200 on DraftKings, $8,100 on FanDuel. Kyrie Irving, Royce O'Neal pulling some love. Joe Harris as a value play is getting some love. Nick Claxton is about 10% owned on DraftKings at 6K. Looks good. I kind of like a lot of the pieces of Brooklyn here.
Yeah, so do I. I like the ones that are getting ownership. In particular, Claxton at 12%. I'm expecting around 30 minutes here. Certainly could play more. I think 30 is a pretty solid projection on him. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy, 1.06 for the season. I think he looks really good at 6K. I think 12% might actually be a little bit low on him. Royce O'Neal and Joe Harris, I think, are both just sort of guys that you get to, at least for right now. As more value opens up, I think they probably will fall off a little bit. We got a ton of minutes from Joe Harris last game. I have him projected for 32 here. I don't feel confident that you're getting 36 or 37 like consistently, but it's nice to know that it's there. He's been really bad this year, but he's going to get better. There's not really a way around that. Even if he doesn't get back to his peak, he's going to be better than he was. So he's cheap enough where I think he's a good value. Royce O'Neal should give you 37 minutes or so. The spot that I think is really interesting that isn't getting much ownership, and I was on him last game and it didn't go well, but it should have. Kyrie at 8,200, playing 38 or 39 minutes consistently now, gets a bump in usage without Ben Simmons, not because Simmons is a particularly high usage guy, but because the ball is just going to be in Kyrie's hands more now, so he gets to decide that he's going to shoot it instead of relying on Simmons to give it to him or Durant to give it to him. And you also get a bump in assist percentage for him. So last game he shot really poorly. He still had a 31 or 32% usage rate. I think on average you can expect 27 or 28%. That's what we've seen from him going back to last year in games where Durant is in and both of Harden and Simmons are not. So I think Irving's just getting slept on here for how many minutes he's likely to play and how involved he's likely to be in this offense.
How are you feeling about Claxton here at 6K or 6,700?
I think he's going a little under owned at 12%.
You and me both. I've got a pretty solid stand on him on FanDuel along with Irving. What do you think about the Royce O'Neal ownership?
I think it makes sense. I think it comes down as we get more value. He's just like, he's shooting guard small forward on DraftKings. He's 5,600. You can pretty confidently project 36 or 37 minutes from him. And he's just the kind of guy where like you're going to build your lineups and then it's just like, I need some $5,600 guy to round it out. And Royce O'Neal for 36 minutes is going to look pretty good. But as you get more value, whether that is Atlanta rolling out half of their lineup or just other stuff that we're not necessarily expecting right now, you're probably just going to see the Royce O'Neal interest drop off because you'll just have 4K guys that look good and you can pay down there and pay up somewhere else.
Durant, obviously, just like Tatum, if you get him, great. If you don't, nothing you could really do here.
Yeah, Durant's great. There's a lot of guys like that today.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think sort of separates Durant and Irving for me, like you can argue Durant gets a bump without Simmons as well for the same reasons as Irving, but Durant's price tag is still up from Kyrie being out, and Kyrie being out is a bigger bump for Durant than Simmons being out is. So it basically just leaves Durant being like correctly priced, if not a little bit underpriced here, whereas Irving is just like the cheapest price you're probably going to see on Irving for the rest of the season.
For years, probably.
Right.
How much TJ Warren do you want at 5,500 on DraftKings? Great job there.
I don't even want to talk on it after how the bubble went.
That's fair. I mean, he's not playing anything remotely close to being able to pay off a $5,500 salary.
He still scores 6 points per minute like he did in the bubble.
That's true. Anything else for Brooklyn?
No.
Okay. Let's go to the next one then. The Orlando Magic 10.5 point dogs at Cleveland, 217 total. I think this one's going to be pretty easy. No Suggs, no Carter, no Harris, no Okiki, no Isaac. Q tag on Mo Bamba. Does any of it matter?
Not really. The Bamba tag matters somewhat. Like if he's in, I assume he's going to start, but that's not even a guarantee. They could just throw him back on the bench and stick with the starting lineup they went with last game. At 5,800, if Bamba is starting, I have mild interest, but there's a million centers that I'm going to like more. If Bamba's out, then I don't think it really matters too much. Like if you get the rotation you got last game, there's still just not anybody that's going to stand out. Banchero, if I had to play somebody from Orlando, would be that guy, but I got a lot of him last slate, which was unexpected. I don't think I'm going to get that much here. I really hope that I don't.
You plug that hole?
Yeah, I don't know what I did, but he doesn't project as well for me today as he did last game.
Yeah, I don't. I have 2% of Banchero and nobody else. This is a bad 217 total, 10-point dogs. Ain't for me. So then we go to Cleveland. A little bit more confusing here as we talk about the Cavs. Still no Jared Allen. Ricky Rubio still out, obviously. Lamar Stevens, though, is back. Kevin Love is questionable. I'm not so sure that Kevin Love is going to matter all that much for today, but Lamar Stevens definitely throws a bit of a wrench into things. Garland, Mobley, Mitchell, I don't think it makes a difference whether Lamar Stevens is back for those three guys. They are the guys that are pulling ownership, 10 to 15% for all three. They all seem pretty similar to me. I don't have much problem getting to any one of those guys from Cleveland.
No, me neither. The one thing I will mention with Mobley is he definitely looks better, assuming that Kevin Love is either out or coming off the bench. I certainly prefer Mobley when he's starting at center, but outside of that, I think he looks pretty good. 7K, you get a bump in rebounding percentage without Jared Allen. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, both, good matchups. Garland's averaging about 37 minutes per game in the games he's played with Mitchell this year, excluding that first game where he got hurt after 13 minutes. Mitchell's averaging around 35 or 36 minutes. So both guys at their respective salaries look pretty good. I do think this is a situation where I like Mitchell, I like Garland. I don't think they should be getting like 1.5 times the ownership of Kyrie Irving at a little bit cheaper price tag. I just think these guys are really comparable. So that is one spot that I think, I don't know if pivot's even the right word because it's not like Mitchell and Garland are super popular or anything, but I don't really think Kyrie should be getting less ownership.
With Lamar Stevens back, does it mean no one is interesting for Cleveland from the wing guys, or are you interested in $4,700 Caris LeVert?
I'm somewhat interested in LeVert. I do think Kevin Love potentially affects him just because that would be more, another high usage guy with the second unit. But that said, even if you just take LeVert's overall rates this year in the games where Garland and Mitchell have been in, he only has about an 18% usage rate, and he's averaged 0.84 DraftKings points per minute. There's a good chance he's still going to be in the closing lineup, which would mean he's playing about 30 minutes. So at 4,700, I think he's just sort of a neutral value play. The fact that he's only getting 2% ownership is what makes him look appealing to me. If he were getting, 8, 9, 10% ownership, I wouldn't really be interested. But I do like the fact that he's just not getting any ownership. And then similarly on Dean Wade, I'm assuming he's still going to start. I have him in for like 30 minutes. I don't think he's a great play in the context of like somebody you should be building around or somebody that you should like be making sure you have. But in terms of sub 1% owned guys, I don't mind Dean Wade.
Yeah. Levert's 4,700 on DK with that shooting guard small forward is the guy that I would want to take the flyer on. He's 5,600 on FanDuel. It's just at that point in time, you need a very specific game out of Levert and not just the value-ish thing that exists for DraftKings. I don't know how this is all going to shake out though for Cleveland. Nothing else for Cleveland?
Nope.
Well, let's talk a little bit about No House Advantage. They are the presenting sponsor of this show. Link in the description. Click it, head on over, make a deposit. You get up to $50 on that deposit as a match bonus. It's a great way to start off a little bit of a bankroll. The NBA, 15K slam dunk, 5K to first. That's going off at 7 o'clock tonight. And right now, there are only 200 of the 1,200 entries in. This will be the best contest you can find in the industry today. At the very least, you're going to get a little bit of overlay. You could potentially, at the very least, you're going to get a little bit of reduced rake. Best case scenario, you're getting a little bit of overlay. The deal with No House Advantage is that you're basically picking player props, and then you are ranking them on a confidence interval. So your favorite will be ranked 10 points, then 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way down the line. If you're interested in just saving a little bit of time, I think that we could help you out there. We have No House Advantage projections on the website for free. Just makes everything very easy for you. You look at the projections, and you're like, okay, we have Jimmy Butler with a 70% likelihood of going under his points projection of 20.5. If you want that to be your favorite one, you'll just pop that into the 10-point spot. You could just work your way down the entire list, take the top 10 if you would like, or you could really save yourself some time. Click on the optimal lineups tab and just take the work that we have already done for you. Do a little bit of differentiation so you're not duping up on anybody. But we've already handled all of the legwork. You can just take those lineups, pop them directly into No House Advantage, get yourself a little bit of extra loot. Adam, I'm going to give you this one right off the top of the gate because I think you and I are probably on the same page. The line for Jimmy Butler, this is our biggest win rate here. The line for Jimmy Butler is 20.5 real points. That is our biggest No House Advantage prop that we could hit for the under.
I have him at 21.2.
Do you really?
Yeah.
How many minutes did you give Jimmy Butler? Because I'm in agreement with us.
35.
Really? Okay. I only gave him 32. So I have Jimmy Butler pretty sizably under. Shouldn't have gave you that one, man. Figured we were both walking into that one pretty easily.
Yeah, I was pretty confused when you told me the name because I knew I hadn't even prop bet anything on him today. So I was just like, I don't think I have a stand here.
Yeah, I figured that was just a snap under. So should have saw that one coming. Either way, take the under. Who needs Adam's advice? No House Advantage has overlay. Take advantage of the stuff that we have on our website. Let's go to the final 7:30 start. The Los Angeles Lakers are 8.5-point underdogs in Milwaukee, 230.5 total. On the Lakers side, not too much to worry about. Everybody that's normally in is in. However, Dennis Schroeder is out. I believe his wife is giving birth, and that's why he's not here. So don't think it matters. Is there anything you want from the Lakers?
Not particularly. LeBron and Davis, I think it goes without saying. If you get to those guys, they look fine. LeBron does look better on FanDuel. I know I mentioned him in my tournament plays video today. He's only 10-1 there, so that's pretty appealing. He's averaging 1.3 FanDuel points per minute, but there's just a lot of guys to pay up for in this price range, and there are several that I like more than Davis or LeBron when the other one is active. As far as the rest of the team goes, Schroeder being out opens up minutes, but the problem is, for one, most of the guys on this team that can take those minutes suck from a fantasy standpoint and typically a real life standpoint. And then also they aren't that favorably priced, and they're also likely to just sort of give minutes to everybody. So I have Troy Brown at 26 minutes, doesn't make him look particularly good. Austin Reeves coming off of a really big game, but still a 0.68 DraftKings point per minute guy for the season. In 30 minutes, I'm not really interested in him. Pat Beverly's been awful this year, sub 10% usage rate, 39% true shooting percentage, 3,500. If you want to try and get lucky with Pat Bev, then sure, but there's other places I would rather try that today. I don't really have much interest in this team going up against a much, 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 much better Milwaukee team.
Austin Reeves, for the first time this season, scored more than a fantasy point per minute in a game. Legend. Put him in the hall right now. On the Milwaukee end, welcome back to my boy. I'm going to clap it up here. It's nice to see him back on the basketball court. Welcome back, Chris Middleton. Probably not going to be your day today. 7,700 on DraftKings is certainly a price, as is 7,400 on FanDuel. Other than Drew Holiday and obviously Giannis, who exists always, there is nothing here for me for Milwaukee.
No, those are the only two I'm interested in, and even that is just tepid interest. Where Drew Holiday at 7,500, I think without Middleton would still be underpriced. I really liked him last slate. I would definitely go right back to him today if Middleton were out. With Middleton in, I think it makes it more so correctly priced. He's been a 1.2 DraftKings point per minute guy this year. I think it's likely you see him fall down to around like 1.1, somewhere in there. Should give you 34, 35 minutes. So he's fine, but there's a lot of guards in that range that I like. And then Giannis, clearly anytime you get to him, it's great. It's a good matchup, all of that. He's also really, really expensive. We've already talked about how it's difficult to get to like Durant or Jokic. Giannis is $1,000 more than they are.
What's your assumption on Middleton's minutes? It is a wrist
30.
injury.
Okay. Yeah, I went 30 because it was a wrist injury, and I assume he's been doing cardio. I don't know. I don't think it matters much. Like, I'm not playing him at 7,700 in 30 minutes or 24 minutes, or it doesn't matter. And as long as it's more than like 16 minutes, I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on Drew or Giannis either.
Okay. Yeah, we're on the same page here. I went lower on the minutes, but I don't think it matters whether I go to 24, 26, 28, 30. Unless we get a tweet that's like, Chris Middleton is back and he is playing like normal Chris Middleton. That's the only thing that's going to matter. I got nothing else here for LA and Milwaukee.
Me neither.
But yeah, the key part there is that it's a wrist injury. He should be in relatively good shape. There's nothing to stop you from running when you have a wrist injury.
Michael Knack talked to Budenholzer today. That's good to know.
Yeah, good. It's helpful. Philadelphia 76ers are 5-point underdogs in Memphis. 217 total. No James Harden. No Tyrese Maxey. No surprise there. Q-tag on Tobias Harris. No non-COVID illness. Kind of matters in the long term. Don't think we're going to get that news anytime soon. Do you want to get to anything from Philly? I still have a little bit of interest in Shake. Obviously, anytime you get to Joel Embiid, you feel fine. DeAnthony Melton's still $1,000 cheaper on FanDuel. That's about it for me, though.
Yeah, I mean, Embiid looks really good for me. The issue is that he is a center, so there's that. But I do have him projected higher than any of the other pay-up guys that we've talked about recently. I actually might have him higher than Giannis. I'm not sure. Yeah, I have him higher than Giannis. So he looked good if you can get there. I projected Tobias Harris out. I don't know if he plays. I know he didn't go through shoot around. I don't think it makes a huge difference, though, because Harris hasn't been a high usage guy this year regardless. He's obviously a higher usage guy than, say, Daniel House, who I assume would start in his place. But you're still getting, like, Embiid, regardless of Harris, Embiid already has close to a 40% usage rate. It can't get that much higher. He already has an assist percentage north of, like, 30%. It can't get that much higher. So I think, maybe it's a marginal uptick for those guys, but nothing that I care too much about. So I really like Embiid one way or the other. Milton, I think, like, you can still give him 38 minutes, and that's just going to make him look reasonable at 6,700. But, again, there are just a million guards in that range as well.
So who benefits if Harris is out?
In terms of playing time, my expectation is that House would play around like 28 minutes. I think Niang probably gets around 28 off the bench. Korkmaz probably gets like 20 to 22 off the bench. The issue is that Daniel House is like a 0.55 fantasy point per minute guy. So even in 28 minutes, I'm probably not really going to get there. Niang is already 4,700 on DraftKings, so probably not going to get there. Korkmaz is 3,200. If I got to any of them, I probably would get to him first. But realistically, I think it's just still going to be Embiid, Milton for me, whether Harris is in or out.
Yeah, it's like, obviously you get that Niang, House, Korkmaz guys as normal-ish pay down options, but I mean, I guess Niang's 4,700. You need every bit of those minutes. He's not going to look really all that good to begin with. There are no priorities additionally if Tobias Harris ends up out for me, other than continue to play Shake, Embiid, or Melton, in this case for me on FanDuel at 6,200. Then we go to the Memphis side. Memphis a little bit different in that no one is interesting on DraftKings from an ownership perspective, but we still have no Desmond Bane working his way back. And I just want him to come back just because he's good. And I like, seeing him play.
I also have him in best ball, so I'd like him to come back.
There you go. Zaire Williams is imminent and Jake LaRavia is still doubtful. I feel like a couple of these Memphis guys are under-owned because they are not owned today. The only guy getting any ownership is it's weird to even say this. $9,900 on FanDuel, Ja Morant, who is 14% owned. That is a price tag that exists for today. What are you doing with Memphis on the DK end?
So, I mean, I think Morant looks good, and he's not getting ownership there at 3%. The one thing I will say, we haven't got to this game yet, but I do prefer Steph to Morant in this price range. But Morant's averaging 1.55 DraftKings points per minute in the 6 games he's played without Bane and with Jaren Jackson. Has a 35.5% usage rate, 44.5% assist percentage. You're likely to get 35 minutes from him as well. So I do really like Ja Morant. It's just he is expensive. He's 10-8 on DraftKings. Outside of that, there's not really much. Steven Adams is another relatively cheap center that, you can get to. Should play 28, 30 minutes, should get you around the fantasy point per minute. Dylan Brooks and Jaren Jackson certainly have nice ceilings, but I wouldn't say that I'm planning on prioritizing anybody from this team, and neither is the field, because Steven Jackson's projected for 4% ownership, Ja's projected for 3%, and everybody else is lower than that.
You called him Steven Jackson. I don't even know which guy you meant.
Neither do I. Steven Adams 4, Jaren Jackson 1.
Yeah, there you go. Call it 2. Yeah, that Morant price for $9,900 on FanDuel, obviously don't feel bad about popping that into some lineups, because that is for sure too low. But otherwise, I see these Memphis starters as just like really interesting last guy in tournament flyers, and that's about it.
Agreed. What's the difference right now in ownership between... So like right now we have Steph at 7% ownership on DraftKings and Morant at 3%. I will probably just, if that holds, just get to more Steph. But it is a spot where I don't think there should be like a huge ownership gap.
No. But those are both... I mean, there's no ownership coming into anything at the top.
Right.
Like, here are the ownership...
Kind of weird, because I think there is value today.
Here are the ownership numbers for the 10 guys that are 10K or higher on DraftKings. 3, 5, 8, 2, 3, 3, 7, 2, 2, 6. There's nobody. You can make a case for like all of those guys should be like 5% owned. It's impossible to want to pick one of those dudes. They're all the same to me.
Yeah, agreed. And also, I guess one reason that you're not getting ownership there, because like there is some value you can get to, but I think one reason you're not getting ownership there is that you have like just that underpriced mid tier where, drawing a blank, but Kyrie 8,200. You have Kyrie at 8,200. You have other guys that are getting, you have Donovan Mitchell, you have Darius Garland that are pulling like 12-15% ownership in the mid 8Ks. So I think that's one thing is like Curry looks good, Morant looks good, but do I really need to pay $2,000 more for them than for Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Kyrie Irving?
Yeah. It's a weird, you normally see like one of those pay up options just get to like 15 or 20 on this. It's like something has happened, and that's just not the case. They're all just very blurry today. The New Orleans Pelicans are getting CJ McCollum back. I have no idea how many minutes that dude can play today. No Brandon Ingram and no, I don't know, like Scottie Pippen crossed with Jesus, I guess, in Herb Jones. He's going to be out today as well. Najee Marshall, though, is probable. Let's start here. What are you anticipating the starting lineup for the New Orleans Pelicans to look like?
McCollum, Murphy, Marshall, Zion, Jovel.
Okay, same page. So let's start with the guy that's pulling the most ownership. That would be $3,300 Najee Marshall. He is 3,800 on FanDuel. He's like 12 to 15% owned. He's like a perfectly reasonable paydown option, but he's the type of guy that's getting 15% owned, and you're like, oh, it must be a little bit easier to get to those 10K guys, and apparently that's just not the case.
Right. Well, he's one of the reasons that I kind of came back and said I think the real reason those guys aren't getting ownership isn't a lack of value. It's just how strong the mid range is, because you do have, we haven't even talked about the Spurs yet on the other side of this game where you have cheap guys, but Najee Marshall at 3,300, he played north of 30 minutes in the couple of games he started in place of Herb Jones earlier in the year. I have him in for 30 minutes here. He's, a 0.7 to 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy typically. So he projects well for 3,300, and it allows you to pay up if you want to. But I think what's going to happen is, even if you just like, let's say you have Najee Marshall, you're probably still going to get to a point where you have like Steph Curry plus a 6K guy. And you're like, wait, I would rather get, Kyrie Irving plus Donovan Mitchell instead. And so that's probably what's keeping the ownership at the top down, because I do think there's value on the slate, including Najee.
By the way, guys, 2,100 people in here, 250 likes. We're a little light on the thumbs ups for a Friday. If you would, please hit that thumbs up. Reward us. Can we get the 350 right away? Just the moment you see it, hit that thumbs up if you can. Let's take that number higher. What else do you want to get to here from the Pels? I would be happy to get to a little bit of Trey Murphy on FanDuel at 5,700 or on DraftKings at 5,700. I wish I liked Zion more, but I certainly am happy to get to any shares of Zion. And then what are you doing with CJ McCollum? To me, this is not a day that I'm trying to get to CJ.
We are on different pages there.
Ooh, talk to me.
I only have him at 34 minutes, and he still looks really good to me.
Okay, I have him at 32. I just don't know what to do with his playing time today.
Neither do I, but he's another one where it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where he got out of health and safety protocols and then took a day off, like still didn't play for conditioning.
Yeah.
We've just seen it so many times since COVID started where that day is really the indicator of like, oh no, he's going to be monitored instead of limited and probably just be good to go. He practiced yesterday. I think he's gonna play a lot. And again, kind of like I was saying with Chris Middleton with the person in chat, 34 minutes isn't full run for CJ McCollum. If there were no concerns here, I would have CJ McCollum in for 37 or 38 minutes. So I think 34 is pretty reasonable. I'm comfortable being there as long as we don't get word that he's limited. Obviously, if he's limited, I'll cut it back a little bit. But at 7,600, I think he looks good. And the fact that he's only pulling 6% ownership is really appealing. Without Ingram on the floor this year, nearly a 26% usage rate, about a 30% assist percentage. I am pretty happy to take my chances on a $7,600 McCollum. And if it turns out he's playing 28 minutes today, then oh well, hopefully I get lucky and he shoots good.
Okay. There you go. Anything else for the Pelicans? Where else are you going? Are you looking at Murphy, Zion, Joval, any of these other idiots?
So Zion obviously looks good. If you can get there, great. I think he's very comparable to Pascal Siakam for me. Zion also only getting about 5% ownership, so seems like the field feels the same way. Larry Nance at 4K with power forward eligibility, I don't hate as a tournament flyer. I expect him to basically split minutes with Joval. Similarly, I don't hate Joval as a tournament flyer. He should have tons of success for whatever minutes he's on the floor. Don't know how many minutes that is. I have him in for 25. I have Nance at 23. But yeah, the guy that I think I get to a lot, I probably get to a lot of Najee just because of the price. I probably get to a lot of CJ just because I think I'm higher on him than every person in the world. And other than that, just mixing in some Zion, some Murphy, some Joval, some Nance.
You getting any Dyson Daniels?
I don't think so. I only gave him 20 minutes, but the big thing is that he's up to 4,500. I've been getting to him recently, but with Marshall being back, assuming Marshall starts, I have a hard time finding enough minutes to want to pay 4,500 for Daniels.
I agree. Here we go. San Antonio Spurs. They are going to be without Jeremy Sohan once again. Jakob Poeltl once again. No Josh Richardson. No Doug McDermott. Romeo Langford is probable. And in a very complicating manner, because they had just sent him to the G League, Charles Bassey is available for today. And that is something. So there are things on San Antonio that are just unequivocally good things to get to. If you want to play Devin Vassell for 7K on FanDuel or 7,500 on DraftKings, by all means. Keldon Johnson is going to be able to do sort of whatever he wants in this one, both sites. Trey Jones is a real NBA player playing 30-plus minutes. He looks good. Keita Bates-Diop, assuming he is just starting again, 3,900 on DraftKings, 4,200 on FanDuel. Very interested there. Let's just start with those four guys before we start talking about the center options. I have no issue getting to anything, and I am getting to a lot of the San Antonio Spurs today.
Yeah, and I think you should be. The one thing that I would say is I think they're going a little bit over-owned because basically the way I described it this morning, and I still feel this way, is that the Spurs are good plays, but this is the type of chalk where I think they're getting a lot of ownership just because they project marginally better than alternatives, not because there's any glaring mispriced guys that like can't fail. Keldon Johnson is one of the best plays in the $7,200 price range, but you have a 1% owned Jamal Murray in that price range. You have, Fred VanVleet in that price range. You have a lot of other guys where it's just like, all right, they're not 4-1 or 5-1 underdogs to Keldon Johnson. Similar for, Trey Jones at 6,200. He's only pulling 12%, but he's a fantasy point per minute guy. He should play around 32 minutes. He looks good. Keita Bates-Diop, 3,900. There's not as many alternatives in that price range. He's around a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. Should give you 28 to 30 minutes. Looks like a fine value. So I like the Spurs. I am a little wary of the ownership coming into them, but I think they look fine.
All right. I'm refreshing our owners.
I talked
Go
about it the
ahead.
other day, but same thing holds. We have seen Keldon Johnson's rebounding rate improve when he's playing alongside Zach Collins. It's a relatively small sample, so I don't know that it necessarily continues, but it's high enough over like 110 minutes that it makes me think it's at least somewhat by design.
There's no other way to say this right now, but I'm going to bring it up like this first. Isaiah Roby is not a thing today, correct?
I think he is.
In like the way at 33% ownership. Sorry.
What do you mean he's not a thing?
Do you think he is the highest owned guy on today's slate?
I think he's popular.
Okay. I think that's crazy.
What?
I think that's crazy, unless I'm missing something.
How many minutes do you have him at?
Isaiah Roby? 19.
Yeah. How many?
19.
Okay, yeah, so I have 20, but it could easily be more.
I'm baffled by this one. At 33%. I don't understand
why you're so, like, why?
To me, it's like a third of that at best.
I get. I agree with you. He probably shouldn't be 33% owned. I guess, like, you're making it sound like you don't understand why people would be playing Isaiah Roby.
I mean, I'll say this much. I know exactly where the tweet is coming from when he comes in at 33% owned today. I think Jesse might have that one in drafts.
Yeah, sure. But I've never complimented him on his ability to figure out how many minutes guys are going to play. So, like, I have Roby in for 20 minutes right now. He's a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. He's $3,100. I have him projected for like 19 and a half DraftKings points. So clearly he's going to look like a good value. And then the other part of that 20-minute projection is that's with Alize Johnson playing 14 minutes. If they don't, that's with Isaiah Roby playing no minutes alongside Zach Collins, basically. If they were to say, all right, Alize Johnson's going to play 10 minutes instead of 14, and you give 24 to Roby, he looks even better. Whereas I don't know how, barring foul trouble, injury, something like that, I don't know how you give Roby less than 20 minutes.
Or
19 minutes or whatever.
Charles Bassey is with this team today.
Roby's
and the only reason I think
anyway, and also,
right, but why call him up? If you already have Gorgie Jang here, there's no need to bring Charles Bassey back from the G League. I read into that.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, maybe the Alize Johnson. I missed that Bassey was back because he was out earlier, but like I'm still projecting Roby ahead of him. If you want to give the Alize Johnson minutes to Bassey, then fine.
I just think it's just one extra complicating factor here. I would not want my lineup to be defined by Isaiah Roby off the bench for the Spurs as the highest owned guy today. Like, I'd rather just have 60. Like, to me, it's crazy.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like we're sort of on the same page. I think he's going over owned. I'm perfectly happy to find alternatives. I understand why he would get a good amount of ownership at 3,100 though.
Okay. Is he a better point per dollar play than Zach Collins today?
I mean, that's a weird question. Similar. I mean, I have Collins at like 6x. I have Roby at 6-ish x.
Okay. Like, I'm surprised to even see Isaiah Roby have more ownership than Keita Bates-Diop on this team.
I do have them pretty comparable.
Okay. In fantasy points?
So I have Roby ahead, though.
In fantasy points?
No. Value.
Oh, okay. I was like, dude, I have this by like 7. We need to have a real conversation right now.
I have Bates-Diop by 4.
Okay. Either way, I'm just fascinated to see that 33. To me, it's the easiest part to get away from. Like, I would rather have none. It's crazy to me. It's truly crazy. I love everything else for the Spurs.
Last game, right?
I don't believe so. I think he was with the G League. They definitely sent him to the G League.
What'd you say?
They definitely sent him to the G League. 100% that did happen. That I know.
Yeah, I know. He was out earlier because of that.
Per the box score on Wednesday, that was DNP CD.
Yeah, he was not on the injury report Wednesday.
I just don't know why they bring him back. It's weird, especially the way that the article read for him getting sent down. It was like, they're sending Charles Bassey down to get work.
I mean, my guess, and I haven't looked, my assumption is just the G League team isn't playing today and the Spurs G League team is close.
That's fair. I don't know. It's just Seems so weird to manipulate
Like
his G League time like that.
he gets paid for being there. He's gonna be with the NBA team. I mean,
Speaking of getting paid, oh man, we're actually going to have to keep it moving. Did you see Pop call a timeout when DeRozan scored his 20,000th point just to like dap him up?
no.
It was just sweet. All right, let's sum up the Spurs here. Vassell, Johnson, Jones, Diop, all obviously like, solid plays that are going to be getting a ton of minutes. Where do you land on Zach Collins today?
I think basically the exact same thoughts I had on him last slate. He's a really, really good value. He's also getting a ton of ownership, and he's center only on DraftKings, which concerns me because you're giving up so much in terms of upside by going there. Like if Zach Collins, I have him projected for 29.5 DraftKings points. If he gets 29.5, 30 DraftKings points, that's good. Obviously you're going to be happy with that at 4,900. The issue is there's a lot of times this slate breaks out where there's several mid-range, 7, 8K centers that go for like 50. And it's just like, all right, cool. That 30 is completely useless because it made it so I can't get those two guys that went for 50. So that's the concern. Like if Miles Turner and Ayton or Miles Turner and Claxton, combined for 90 or 100 points, that 30 you got from Collins isn't likely to be the most efficient way to go. So that's kind of my concern, is just going to a really popular center, cheap, value center in Collins. The other concern I have is that his rates do come down playing with Keldon Johnson. Usage rate comes down, rebounding rate comes down. I still haven't projected well. I haven't at over a fantasy point per minute, but I think it's a spot where I'm likely to end up below the field.
All right. Anything else here?
No, but you have made me concerned about Charles Bassino.
Good. Finally listening to me.
Well, the issue is if I give Bassey enough minutes to matter, then Bassey's going to end up in my lineups.
That's fair. I mean, it's more that I see the downside risk and I don't see the real upside for Isaiah Roby at this point.
Sure.
Like clearly he's a good point per dollar play at like 19 or 20 minutes, but I don't know what it has to take for him to play like 28 and become that guy. Is that 20? I just don't care on 11 game. Sure. And at that point, it's just like, maybe it's Alize Johnson.
Well, so that's the issue I'm having right now is I'd given Alize Johnson 14 minutes. If I say, okay, what if those minutes go to Bassey and Roby is playing the 4 instead of the 5, then I'm going to get a lot of Bassey. And yeah. I don't.
And then a Zach Collins foul trouble thing could also not matter for Isaiah Roby at that point, too.
Middleton's officially available.
We are getting down to it. We still have 3 more games to go. We can zip through some of this. Houston Rockets are 11-point dogs in Phoenix, 229 total. Everybody that's normally available for Houston is available. No one is getting any ownership for Houston, and I do not really believe that they should. $6,700 Jalen Green on FanDuel is a nice price. He is getting something, but on DraftKings, these guys are not interesting to me.
No, the main 3 guys from Houston, Porter, Green, Şengün, they're all reasonable enough, like low priority tournament plays. Şengün would be the first one I go to, but nothing that stands out at all.
All right. Yeah, I have 2% of Green and 1% of Şengün on FanDuel. There's just not that kind of team. And then we get to Phoenix. Cam Payne pulling a bunch of ownership. 20% owned on DraftKings at 6,400. I guess I get it. 41% owned on FanDuel at 6K. Feels a bit healthy. I'm getting to him, but not nearly to that mark. Mikal Bridges seems to be a guy that I'm going to get to quite a bit today if he plays 100 million minutes, because for the Phoenix Suns, we have no Cam Johnson, no Chris Paul, and now no Torrey Craig for today, which has a bit of a trickle-down effect, assuming Damian Lee starts, but they've got a couple of guys that could like sort of just fit into that mold, into that final spot. What are you doing with Phoenix here? Because it's a good spot against Houston.
Yeah, it is. And this is another spot where, so Cam Payne's pulling 20+% ownership. He's, to me, similar to a lot of the Spurs guys where I think he's a good play. We also have him going over-owned. We have him at 21% ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. I see it the same way. Like, he's getting ownership because he does project well. He projects a little bit better than other guys, but there's not a big difference between like a $6,400 guy and a $7,100 or $7,200. It's pretty easy to navigate your lineups around to make that work on an 11-game slate. And there's just so many guys getting a lot less ownership than Payne. So I think he's a good play. I think he projects well. I think he's probably on the short list of cash options if you're playing that. And he's fine in tournaments if you have contrarian plays elsewhere. But I do think he's going a little bit over-owned. Damian Lee, if he starts, is another reasonable value option at $3,800. Booker, Ayton, Bridges, all interesting to me in tournaments because they are not getting much ownership and they all have massive ceilings. Devin Booker has been playing out of his mind recently. Gets another good matchup today. He's averaging 37 minutes per game without Paul. If this game goes down to the wire, you could certainly get more. 31.5% usage rate, 27% assist percentage for Booker. Mikal Bridges averaging 38.5 minutes per game without Paul. That's including games that have blown out, like last game where he lost several minutes. I was saying to you before the show, I went to 39 minutes on Bridges, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if the guy plays like 42 if this game's competitive. The price tag has come up, so I don't think he's a great play, but the minutes should be there. And then we know the type of upside that DeAndre Ayton has as well. There are other centers I like a little bit more, but I like the idea of any of Booker, Ayton, Bridges as ways to get exposure to this team while also being different in tournaments.
Sweet. The Pacers and the Jazz. Pacers are 4.5-point dogs, 239 total. For Indiana, they are essentially at full strength, but we do have one just hanging in the ether here. Tyrese Halliburton's questionable, and if he happens to be out, that changes the entire scope of this team. If he is in, they sort of just look like they always do. You can kind of pick and choose guys that play pretty regularly, but all told, I'm not all that interested. I mean, it's a great environment for scoring. Utah's bad on defense. Like, the pace of this game is great. These guys are priced appropriately.
Yeah, pretty much. I still like Miles Turner at 7,300. I think that he's a little bit underpriced given the minutes we've seen from him in competitive games when he's not in foul trouble. He's kind of had like a 32-minute floor in competitive games where he's not in foul trouble. Not to say he has a 32-minute floor. I haven't projected for 30 minutes because foul trouble exists and blowouts exist. But we have seen Indiana certainly looking to give him more minutes recently. Isaiah Jackson hasn't been playing as much. So I think that's really good for Turner, who's averaged about 1.25 fantasy points per minute this year. And then obviously Tyrese Halliburton is always a good play. He went through shoot around, but he is questionable. If he gets ruled out, swap to as much TJ McConnell as you can get to. He's 3,800. He's averaged 35 minutes per game in 11 starts over the last couple of seasons. Assuming he's the guy that slides in for Halliburton, he ends up being probably the best value on the slate.
And we're not going to know any of that stuff for Indiana before lock. So get your late swapping ready if he happens to be out. Now let's talk about Utah, because they get the benefit of facing Indiana in an incredible matchup. And this team has looked great with Mike Conley out, just from everybody's getting more minutes. The roles are super defined. Clarkson, Markkanen, Olynyk, Sexton, Vanderbilt, Beasley. These guys are all getting a ton of ownership depending on which site you're looking at, which guy you're looking at. Some upwards of mid-30s like Clarkson and Sexton on FanDuel, but I am very happy getting to basically any part of Utah. I would also like to get to Walker Kessler at 3,100 on DraftKings before I got to 33% owned Isaiah Roby.
So the only reason I disagree with you there is the Kessler center only.
Yeah, I agree. I know, but the point still stands.
Yeah. No, I if you didn't say it, I was going to say if Kessler was a power forward, I would love that pivot off of Roby. But Clarkson, Olynyk, Markkanen, Sexton, Vanderbilt, Beasley, all grayed out as positive plays for me on DraftKings. I do think it's another situation where they're going, at least some of them are going a little bit over-owned. Clarkson, for example, at 22%. 12% chance of being optimal, but that doesn't mean you can't play Clarkson. It just means you need contrarian plays with him. He's averaging a little bit over 36 minutes per game in the games without Conley. We know he's a high upside, high usage guy. Kelly Olynyk is somehow averaging 34 minutes per game without Conley. I don't even think that really has to do with Conley. Somehow he just hasn't been fouling, and they've also just condensed their rotation, which is why you've seen 36, 37 minutes from Markkanen. Sexton's averaging about 31. Beasley's at 28, but can easily get to 30 to 32 if he's knocking down shots. The only guy that hasn't been playing more minutes out of that group is Jared Vanderbilt, and that's because, one, he fouls a lot, and two, they frequently don't close with him because they go with Beasley as a shooter instead. But at only 4,800 with power forward eligibility, Vanderbilt still projects pretty well also. So all six of these guys look good to me, at least in some way, shape, or form. And then Walker Kessler, again, I don't like punting the center position all that much, but outside of the game where they gave Doak minutes, you've actually gotten more playing time recently from Kessler. You saw it last game outside of garbage time. He played every minute that Vanderbilt wasn't on the floor. So there is at least a path to that 20-minute game from Walker Kessler at minimum salary.
I mean, he played the final 8 minutes of the second quarter alongside Kelly Olynyk.
Right. Yeah, he's been the straight backup to Jared Vanderbilt for the most part. There was one game the other day where Udoka played a bunch of minutes, and the Utah beat writer pretty much was like, I don't know why he's playing. I think it might just be to improve his spirits and get him on the floor for a little bit. It didn't seem like it's anything that we should be overly concerned about long term.
Okay. Yeah, I love Utah. This is going to be the place where I probably have the most exposure. It's either here or San Antonio, but they just look fantastic, and so does this game. So I'm happy to get to all things Utah. Final game?
Chicago
Bull? No.
SMP is right. I think that's a good point. Like, if everybody's going to go to Collins, you can save even more and get to Kessler. The issue is just still the raw points thing. Like, if Kessler goes for 21 at center, there's a really good chance that's going to be something you wish you didn't have. Whereas if he did it at like one of the forward spots, it's a lot easier to work.
We close it out now pretty easily. Chicago Bulls are 7-point dogs in Golden State, 237 total. This is your standard issue Chicago Bulls rotation. Caruso is in. We see this game. We see this team play the same way over and over and over again. Levine still looks pretty interesting to me in like a low 7K price tag range. You know, you just hope that at some point in time he gets healthy. If you want to ever play DeRozan or Vooch, by all means. There's just no priorities here. Although, I like Levine probably more than most people. The ownership just happens to be there today.
Yeah, I like Levine quite a bit too. It's just that I don't think he looks that much better than the 5% owned guys in his price range. So he's another one where he looks good, probably going a little bit over owned. I like getting to Vooch. He's another, $7,300 center that has a high ceiling. DeRozan obviously is fine. I think I would get to Levine and Vooch first. One quick question. How many minutes do you have Andre Drummond in for?
15.
Okay. I went 12. I'm not sure he plays all the backup center minutes here. And the reason I'm bringing it up is he's 3,500 on DraftKings. So if you go 32 Vooch, 16 Drummond, he ends up looking pretty decent. And we do have him projected for 10% ownership on DraftKings. The last time that Chicago played a small team was OKC. Andre Drummond played the backup center minutes in the first half. They went to Derrick Jones Jr. in the second half. So I did go ahead and give Derrick Jones Jr. 4 of those center minutes. It means that I'm probably not going to get to Drummond. And that probably also means this is going to be the day that he finally has that game.
Yeah. Grab yourself some Walker Kessler if you wanted to go to Andre Drummond today, I think. And then we close it out with Golden State, another team that is just sort of the same thing all the time when everybody is in single-digit ownership up and down the board. I'd be happy to get to Curry or any one of these Curry, Wiggins, Green, Clay, Jordan Poole type guys. But again, I see no priorities here.
Yep, same. I already said that Curry's the guy that I have projected slightly the best out of the Booker, Morant group. He is more expensive than Booker, so Booker's probably the easiest for me to get to. But yeah, I love getting the Steph. The peripherals are there this year. He's playing out of his mind. He's playing bigger minutes, all of that. But we've liked so many 7 to 8K guys here where, again, it's just going to be tough to really prioritize that price range. And then beyond that, I think all of Green, Wiggins, Thompson, Poole, Looney are correctly priced and just, reasonable contrarian plays, but nothing that you're excited about.
Anything else you want to touch on?
Nope.
That'll do it, folks. NBA Deeper Dive in the books. Hit that like button so we can get up to 500 on the transition. 2,600 people in here. Thank you to No House Advantage for sponsoring. Don't go anywhere. NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next, taking you all the way up to 7 o'clock and the Promised Land. So we'll talk to you later, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Watch some soccer tomorrow like Adam will. Peace.
Bogdanovich is in.
Okay. Yeah, Bomba.
I like how you think you're smooth like that, Tyler. So we've got Eric dealing with some domestic stuff in the background. Not anything.
See, when you
crazy
use that word, it makes it sound like we're having an argument. She's simply leaving the building,
well, I know,
except things to coordinate.
So you're talking to your wife. You're saying goodbye to her. So Tyler, instead of doing his normal countdown, just like we're starting now. He's trying to put you in a bad spot, which I will have none of. I'm here to defend my co-host Eric Lindquist.
Thank you.
I only do the nicest things for my friend Eric. So Tyler, I do not appreciate that. That was not cool. Why you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to No House Advantage, the sponsor of today's show. Eric, everything settled there? And where's your wife going, by the way?
Oh, it's good. She's working a movie premiere tonight, so she's out late getting that all done. But I was just literally saying, "I love you, goodbye, honey." There was no domestic dispute. What verbiage by you?
It was a domestic ongoing. If you're telling your wife you love her, that's a domestic ongoing.
Okay.
Well, I'm not saying it was an Antonio Brown situation.
That's where my head went immediately when you said the word domestic, because usually when you see it in writing and then the next word is abuse or something not good after it. So yeah, all is well here. All's well. I will blink profusely if there is something wrong.
Yeah, well, we know for sure if there was any sort of domestic issue that Eric's involved in, he's the one getting beat up. Like no doubt about it. There is zero doubt in my mind that it would be Eric with like a dent in his head, the shape of a rolling.
So we have an NBA slate tonight. That's good to know.
Yeah, Tyler, shame on you. Shame on you for trying to throw her.
Yeah, this is on Tyler. He's loving it though. Look at him. I've never seen him this happy. He's happy to be at work right now. This is enjoyable.
I just wanted to clarify. I misread Greg's face. I thought he had like a bit queued up, so I was like, "Oh, I'll get Greg in there," and then it wasn't. It was a complete.
No, I was actually looking because I assumed we were going to start a little bit late because Eric, we're about to start. Tyler goes, "Are you ready?" I say yes. Eric says yes. And then all of a sudden, Eric says, "Bye, honey, I love you." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice. You don't have to say that to me before every show." Then I realized he wasn't talking to me, and then we just started.
Misread by the quarterback there. I apologize.
Yeah, shout out to Malukar, just gifted some YouTube memberships out to people. We appreciate that. And then also, we've got some super chats here as well. First, from Kyle B23, domestic tip touching. Yeah, he knows what's up.
Haven't done it in a while. It feels good to do it for the first time in a while.
Yeah,
right there.
Starting to feel a little like I needed to get that out. Fantasy Guru 76. Let's get it, fellas. Let's. And let's start by talking about some of the news that just came out. A couple of things that I want to hit on, starting with the starting lineup for the Orlando Magic. I thought this could have been something that was in the cards, possibility it happened this morning. Mo Wagner starting for the Orlando Magic, just a really long injury report for them. And it's funny because when it came to the Magic for a really long time, the backcourt was really crowded. And now the backcourt is really crowded. The front court is thin. Where for a really long time, the backcourt, we had so many guys that were out, and it was Jalen Suggs would play all those minutes. Everything's reversed now. Wendell Carter Jr. is out. Mo Bamba's out. Jonathan Isaac is out. Chumo Kiki's out. Gary Harris is out. Jalen Suggs, he is once again dealing with an injury. Seems like he can't play more than, 5-6 games in a row before he gets hurt again. But with all these players out for the Magic, it is Mo Wagner moving into the starting lineup against a big Cleveland Cavaliers team. What do you make of the starting lineup?
I mean, obviously, I think that there's an issue with the tag for DraftKings purposes. But in terms of the starting lineup, kind of wild. Just Franz Wagner is just not even he's 6'10". Franz Wagner playing point guard again for this basketball team. I mean, him, Banchero just kind of interchanging there. Markelle Fultz playing point now, but I'm saying Franz Wagner was playing point there before. Now we go to this Mo Wagner thing. He's up to 5,100. It's a lot of bigs. Him, Bol, Paulo Banchero all hanging out on the same floor. Not a lot of opportunities. The tag isn't very good. What's his tag over on FanDuel? I'm not playing there today, but maybe we can consider it there. But on DraftKings 5,100, there's just so many other more appealing spots on the board today.
So Mo Wagner over on FanDuel is 4,900 and power forward eligible. Not power forward center, just power forward. Power forward, the more important one. I would say he's playable at that price point, but it's not like we're getting somebody at min price or anything.
Yeah, he's just... our projections loved him the other night. They were shorthanded, and Ended up coming to fruition. He played 26 minutes, put up 30 at 4,700. 5,100, I don't really feel him to be I don't find him to be all that necessary. Maybe I get a share or two in 150, but there's just no way that I'm going to be prioritizing him with Atlanta still coming up here. So many pieces that we're waiting on there. And then the big news for me in my lineups today, Tyrese Halliburton. You and I kind of briefly were on the same page there in the betting Discord, where we both think that he's probably going to be sitting. That makes that entire game environment so appealing to me. Already sitting near a 240 total. I just am going to be waiting for better spots. I don't think 5,100 Mo Wagner needs to be it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just thought it was interesting that he was starting.
Oh, for sure.
We didn't really know what that starting lineup was going to look like. And then we'll talk about the Hawks and then address some of the potential late swap situations we could have. By the way, if anybody's questions, usual deal, throw them into the Discord chat and I'll be answering any of those. One of the perks of being a Stokastic Platinum member. Now, the Atlanta Hawks, did you see the quote from Nate McMillan that came out about 15, 20 minutes ago?
Sure did. And then went to the injury report. Nothing has changed. At the 2:30 injury report, everything looks likely there. And then we got Bogdan Bogdanovic going to make his debut. Shout out Rinpack, hang out in Miami. His girlfriend was not unattractive, but Bogdan Bogdanovic was hanging out in the club. He was lovely. He's playing on Friday. First time all season long. That's one of the guys that's going to get thrown into the mix. But yeah, the quote being, I'm going to have 10 active bodies today. Well, that's nice to know, but now we need to figure out who the other two are.
Yeah, and so here's just so we know who's officially active. I'm going to do some counting on my fingers, the most official form of mathematics that I know how to do.
Yes.
So we've got Vit Krejci, Jared Roden, Aaron Holiday, Onyeka Okongwu, Bogdanovic, Culver, Griffin, DeJounte Murray. That leaves us 8, right? That's 8 players we know who are active, and there are 4 guys who are questionable. That's Frank Kaminsky, Jalen Johnson, Clint Capella, Trae Young. The quote that we got from Nate McMillan is that they will have 10 players active today. So let's do the other part of the math. We've got 8 guys active, 4 players questionable. Eric, like this is 3rd grade. How many players does that mean will get ruled out from the Atlanta Hawks?
2 more. 2 more.
There we go. All right.
Look at me.
You've passed 3rd grade mathematics. Now we have to figure out who of the 2, Kaminsky, Jalen Johnson, Clint Capella, Trae Young. It's funny because this could be very significant news or very insignificant, because if Frank Kaminsky and Jalen Johnson gets ruled out, who gives a fuck? But if Clint Capella and Trae Young get ruled out, that changes everything. So I want to know, do you have any kind of lean on which players it's going to be who are not playing?
Absolutely not, but we're going to be here for an extra half hour. We're going to be going all the way up to that extremely important time period, that being 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We have 5 games locking, lots of opportunity to be able to adjust our lineups. So this is one of those slates where I don't know what my lineups look like yet, mainly because Atlanta, I could end up with every share. I could have 100% of Okongwu today, which is probably near what I would have. I know there's a lot of good centers, but at 4,200, the amount of minutes he'd have to play would be absurd if you get Clint Capella out. If you get Trae Young out, obviously you want to jam DeJounte Murray. There's really no doubt about that. AJ Griffin at 4,500 would become interesting-ish. The thing is Bogdanovic and Aaron Holiday and a lot of other things that could just knock away at Trae Young if he's in, DeJounte Murray if he's in, things that I don't want to really be dealing with. But Clint Capella, if he ends up being the guy in, don't be sleeping on Clint Capella at 6,300. He's going to end up under-owned. He's going to have to be on the floor a lot. You would really want him out there against Jokic. Yeah, I would want a lot of Clint Capella if he's the guy who gets ruled in. But so many ways that this can go, and I don't know what to tell you because I have no lean.
My gut feeling is that it is Capella and Trae Young who get ruled out.
That's my gut feeling, but again, I have no lean whatsoever. And if that's the case, just play all the DeJounte Murray in all the land, play all the Onyeka Okongwu in all the land, play all the AJ Griffin, play Jarrett Culver at 3,700. How's that going to feel? That's not going to feel good, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, Culver's somebody who he would be lower on the priority list for me, but for sure, I mean, the best possible value guys here. Number 1 be Okongwu. I feel pretty good about that. On the high end, DeJounte Murray, if Trae Young was ruled out. So Okongwu is if he was starting in place of Okongwu, if he was starting in place of Clint Capella. And then I'd be interested to see what the minutes restriction is for Bogdanovich. Do you any kind of feel, or have you read anything about that? I have him for 20 minutes right now. He's not going to go out and play 30 or anything like that, but if he was to start and play 25 minutes, it does make a pretty big difference in any kind of potential value options.
Yeah, I have 20 in for him as well. So we are completely on board. We don't have to think about him at 5,200. I know he's a guy who offensively is going to go out and try to get a bucket, but that's kind of the problem with him, is that that is definitely something. If you get Trey and DeJounte Murray, and I just want to stay far, far away from that backcourt. The front court, if Capella's out, you're just playing the Congo. It's pretty much as simple as that. But 20 minutes for him. I think regardless, Jarrett Culver would have to be on the floor a lot. You just don't have DeAndre Hunter there. You don't have John Collins. If Frank Kaminsky, he's not officially in either. That was the other guy that we're waiting on. I don't really think he could get some kind of crazy minutes allotment. I think Jarrett Culver's a little bit more interesting if you get the two core guys out than I think you probably do. Mainly because he's the cheapest out of everybody. 3,700. I could at least stomach getting to some of that. Time in Minnesota was just brutal. I hated watching him there. Shout out Texas Tech, Jarrett Culver. Not my favorite play, but 3,700, I would definitely get there a little bit more than the field if you get Trae Young and Capella out.
And then just in general, because we have all these injury scenarios. So I'll read off all of the names here. And we could then just try to figure out, I'm going to ask you the usual thing, like how we're going to handle these players and the situations based on the start time of the game. So Trae Young, Tyrese Halliburton is also questionable. Jamal Murray's questionable. We talked about Clint Capella being questionable. Tobias Harris also questionable. Halliburton's the one that I think has the biggest potential impact in our lineups post-lock, just because his game locks so late and it's such a good scoring environment. So I want to know, how are you going to handle some of the early games in tournaments when we have later games that could potentially open up a ton of value?
I don't know. It really just depends on Atlanta. Atlanta's really the only thing that can turn the tide. Miami's completely healthy. Brooklyn, you can get to the usual suspects. Kyrie Irving. I think Joe Harris is less appealing on this slate because I do lean on the side of Halliburton being out. Atlanta is going to move the tide in some kind of a direction, either all the way for that game environment or all the way against it. I also don't completely hate it. I know that this is an 11-game slate, and this is kind of a weird thing to say, but I don't completely hate building as if Halliburton's out to begin with on this slate. And kind of let me explain why. There is such a chasm between the starting point guard of what you would have for Tyrese Halliburton, 9,600 with an assist rate over 50% and all the opportunity and all the land. Look at who would be playing directly behind him. Andrew Nembhard is 3,700. Aaron Nesmith is 3,600. And then, of course, TJ McConnell, I would expect to probably get an opportunity to play a ton too. He's at 3,800 and has always been somebody who, and we've seen it multiple times, 22, 23 minutes in two of his last three, still gets up over 28, can be a really good fantasy asset. Been right around a fantasy point per minute on the season. So regardless of how that lineup construction works out, they're all in that same tight window from 3,600 to 3,800. I think you should be building some lineups just with 2 Pacers, 3 Pacers in the event that news does break that way. I'm doing that with a large allotment of my lineups. I'll do it with a lot fewer lineups if we get Atlanta news to break a certain way. But this is a slate where I think it is very, very important to get that Halliburton thing correct. And if it does break your way, you're sitting on the nuts, especially if the news comes out after 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So just saying, even if it's 20%, 30% of your lineups, build out a set of projections, build out scenarios where you're getting to 2, 3, maybe even 4 Pacers, and you have the best game environment on the slate and amazing run backs in Utah. I never think about game stacking, but my God, do I have so many pieces of Utah and Indy today.
So one thing that makes this easy also is I already think a lot of the best value on the slate, and it's going to be shown out in the ownership as well. I'll look to see where that currently is. But if you're just building lineups based on the best points per dollar plays, you're going to get to a bunch of guys from the Jazz. You're going to get to a bunch of players from the Spurs anyway. So, I mean, I already get to players in that time slot, and I think that's going to make it easy for me to make swaps, particularly when I'm already getting to Utah guys playing against the Pacers. I think it's going to be really easy to make swaps without a real opportunity cost. It's not like it's not like I'm foregoing early value because I kind of think the best value is already in the Spurs and in the Jazz. So this should be a pretty easy one, I think to be able to adjust to no matter how the news breaks.
Agreed. It's the absolute nut spot for me in tournaments right now. We've got 3,000 people that we're talking to this to. I mean, if Atlanta, you get Trae Young and Clint Capella in, I'm going to jam this game and just hope that it breaks my way, especially if we don't have Halliburton news yet. I'm just going to jam it. I'm going to have 2 minimum from the Utah side, and I'll have 3 probably from everybody on the Indiana side because everybody gets a massive bump up. It's not too hard to figure out what those rotations would look like. It's not too hard to make maneuvers based on what the starting lineup is because of where those salaries are. It's just one of the easier late swap spots we've had in quite some time for a massive piece of news.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to be able to get that because maybe not within the next 38 minutes, but maybe in the following 30 minutes because Eric and I were going to be doing our post-lock show. So everybody like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for that because Eric and I are going to be talking about no house advantage. We'll be talking about some bets that we like, some props we like over on NHA. But then, of course, reacting to any of the injury news, lineups, late scratches, anything like that happens after lock. We've got some super chats that just came in. First, Rob Martin, just the tip.
Just to see how it feels.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little. Good negotiating tactic as a starting point.
Maybe all I need is just a little bit. Gonna head to the crib in a little bit. Gonna show you how I live in a little bit. Do.
You didn't really put in your usual energy into that. I don't feel like you really sold that one.
I'll do better.
Super chat from our guy Jorge. Jorge saying Eric's wife was asking him that she has a friend that watches the show and bet on DK and wants to know how many Spurs are too much per lineup today.
I wouldn't play 4 ever in this scenario. You could play 3, hope that it stays close, and you got some decent enough spots where you can kind of piece it together. I wouldn't play 4 today just because there's going to be so many other pronounced pieces of value. And for me, I'm looking at that Indiana-Utah game more than the field is. I'm just jamming it. Atlanta is going to change some things too. You're probably going to get some piece of value, or maybe you're going to get 0 value. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So I will say, if you get Trae Young and Clint Capella in, I think you could play 3 or 4 Spurs. If you get Clint Capella and Trae Young out, I would say 2 would be the most I would want.
So I have no restrictions right now just because I get to a bunch of them and it's not an issue for me because I'm going to be late swapping, right? I'm cool with getting to these guys in a later time slot anyway. When I'm starting to do some late swaps later, I'm going to set a rule for 3 in Fantasy Cruncher. For right now, I'm going to leave it as is. It gives me more flexibility, so I'm getting less of the early guys. But I'm going to make a rule for 3 post-lock when I start doing lineup swaps. Sotex, tip of the morning to you, Eric and Greg.
I see what you did there.
Tip of the morning to you, Mr. Sotex. Tip of the morning. I think we had another super chat in here. Oh, here we go. SMP 1993. If Halliburton is out, rank the non-McConnell Pacers. And thank you. Well, first of all, McConnell would be number 1. I know he said outside of McConnell. But let me look at some of the other Pacers.
It would be Nembhard 2 for me. Nesmith, I don't know what those minutes could look like. We've seen, he went to 24 even off the bench, but there was a blowout against Sacramento. It's really hard to lean into what those minutes would be. I think he's still in play, Aaron Nesmith at 3,600, but I would say T.J. McConnell by far number 1. Nembhard number 2. I would probably go Benedict Mathurin number 3 at 5,600, shooting guard, small forward eligibility. Buddy Hield 4. The thing about Buddy is you have Tyrese Halliburton creating for you. Yay! Very nice for a spot-up shooter. He's at 6,100. Yeah, the usage would definitely go up slightly, but he's better off having somebody out there creating for him. Miles Turner would fall a little bit further down the pecking order too, but 7,300, he's still your highest upside option from the entire team for a raw fantasy projection. So I will go McConnell 1, Nembhard 2, Mathurin 3, Hield 4, Turner 5, Jalen Smith 6, Nesmith 7.
All right, so you went 7 deep there.
I did. You're welcome. 7 deep. It's what I did for Bojan yesterday too. Sell 5.
All right, let's look at some of the rates this year with these guys with Halliburton off the court. I would like Miles Turner a lot. looking at some of the numbers here. Turner this year, his usage goes way up with no Halliburton on the court. So for him this year, it's a limited sample size, 78 minutes, but 26% usage rate, has scored 55 fantasy points per 36 minutes in that small sample size that we have seen him without Halliburton. Some of that is because of an insane block rate, but either way, the increased usage that he's seeing in those scenarios, the increased scoring, it makes me think that Miles Turner would be a priority for me. Mathurin would be another one. So Mathurin, 35.3% usage rate this year when Halliburton hasn't been on the court. So I'm going to say beyond McConnell, I would be getting to Turner, Mathurin, and probably Nembhard as my 3 most rostered.
Yep, we are on the exact same page.
All right, so that's how we're going to handle the Pacers, and then we'll see what ends up happening, if he even ends up being out, or what the starting lineup looks like. And we are caught up on the super chat. So, but before we go any further, let's tell the people how to make some free money. If you guys haven't taken advantage of the offer we have with BetMGM, you're running out of time to do it, because the World Cup offer, which gives you $200 for free, no risk to yourself, the deal ends on Sunday. All you have to do to take advantage of the opportunity, click on the link below in the description box, or there's about to be a link that Tyler's going to throw into the YouTube chat. You click on that link, you make a BetMGM account, your first bet, you're placing a $10 bet on any World Cup game, regardless of what happens in that game. It's going to pay out $200, but the deal ends Sunday. So if you've been looking to take advantage of the opportunity, but you've been a little unsure whether you want or not, you're running out of time. So take advantage of it now. Eric and I are enjoying some World Cup action. It's been fun to watch. I've enjoyed watching soccer way more than I thought I was.
Hold on. You have been smashing World Cup bets. I don't think here's the thing that's difficult, is that a lot of people don't want to go out and make bets on things that have 5 or 10% chances to win. But value's value, baby. And I will say, you have been cashing tickets. It is outrageous what you've pulled off in the World Cup. Bravo.
By the way, the other day we're doing a show. I said Australia 6-1, and Australia ends up winning. I'm betting Australia again tomorrow at 13-1. Once again, are they likely to win? No, but taking a chance. Michael McKinney, 5 must plays FanDuel cash. Thanks, guys. All right, 5 plays for FanDuel.
It's going to look completely different very, very soon. More than likely.
Let me go look right now at the builds I have on FanDuel, but Eric does raise a good point, which is some of these guys could look different depending on what ends up happening with some of the injuries and who gets ruled out. But there are players that I think we could pretty confidently say are good cash plays on FanDuel. Colin Sexton, Campaign, Jordan Clarkson, Keldon Johnson, those 4, I do not imagine are going to change as guys that I'd really want in cash games. The 5th, I think, is probably going to come from an injury scenario.
Yep, and there's going to be multiple of them where you can be adjusting to it. I don't ever like saying concrete stuff for cash or even just for tournaments right now, just because it's all the timing of the news. Like if we find out at, I don't know, what time would it be? 7:25 p.m. Eastern time that Halliburton's out, you're going to want to play a lot more Pacers. Even with 5 minutes left to go, you would just switch on to McConnell, Nembhard. You'll probably get to Miles Turner. You'll probably get to a lot of those guys. If it comes out at 4:55 my time, so 7:55 p.m. Eastern time, you might be switching off of Zach Collins, whereas right now he's like an absolute stone cold lock for your cash games. You have Jordan Clarkson. I think regardless of how things pan out, he would make some sense to be getting to. Let's see. For FanDuel. Yeah, Jordan Clarkson for sure at that kind of ownership. Colin Sexton. I mean, you're going to have exposure to that game as is, and you can turn it into Pacers, but don't have a firm and fast rule for what your lineup's supposed to look like right now. Cameron Payne is good no matter what. 6K, it is almost impossible for me to imagine a scenario where you wouldn't want to have him in your cash lineup today.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. So the guys I've read off, I think just for sure you'd want in cash lineups. And then it's hard to find a 5th one because it's somebody like, I could say right now, like, I think Terry Rozier or Bruce Brown would be good cash game options, but there's a good chance that they won't be in a little bit. So just the 4 I mentioned before, Michael, Campaign, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Keldon Johnson, I feel very good about those 4. Got a bunch of questions in the Discord channel, so let's catch up on those, and then hopefully we'll get some actual news that we could respond to in terms of players being ruled out or anything like that. But first, from our guy Seth, trying to get my wife's boyfriend to Christmas Carol with me, but he refuses to leave until the Hawks news. I tried telling him the Jazz are better value. Who's right? Your wife's boyfriend is right today. That's why he's going to be sleeping in your bed tonight and you're going to be sleeping on the couch. Because if things break correctly for the Hawks, that's going to be a better value situation than the Jazz, and it's probably going to go lower owned.
I hate this bit so much. This is the same way. This bit is the same way you feel about me doing Magic Mike with the jigsaw impression. I hate it so much.
Do you have an answer though?
No. Yeah, he's correct. Your wife's boyfriend is correct, and
there we go.
You deserve the couch that you were sleeping on, sir.
Yeah, you have to watch from the couch that's in your bedroom on the other side.
You're going to be biting a pillow on the couch while your wife bites a pillow in the bedroom. Hello. That's
exactly. Sorry, Seth. He's right
about it.
You're on the wrong side of this. PSAD 19. Assuming we'll just need to go the roundabout way. So PSAD, just you could upload the ownership in Fantasy Cruncher because he's trying to figure out how to get it there. Heflove, I hear that Seth's wife's boyfriend thinks that Halliburton sits even though he went through shoot around. Do you agree? I don't know what to make of Halliburton. I think he's 50-50. I don't have a good lean there either.
I think it's like 60-40 Halliburton. That he sits.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm more on the side of it. Maybe it's a little bit of wishful thinking, but like, here's the thing. If I get stuck with lineup spots in that section, there are Phoenix pieces you can get to. I don't really like the Chicago Golden State game outside of Levine, but there's so much good stuff on the Utah side. I can turn a lot of my lineups into something manageable. Once again, Atlanta, that's the big key to the entire slate right now.
And the next one is from Smiths. If Halliburton's out, how many minutes would you give TJ McConnell? First of all, I would play McConnell in every single lineup I possibly could. And that's
100%. I would have 100% of him.
Now, how many minutes would I give him? 30,
and even
32?
Even if for some reason he doesn't start, he's still a phenomenal piece at 3,800. And you would be able to just go to somebody at Nemhard who is $100 less. So there you go. It would be such an easy swap. It very rarely works out this perfectly.
So I'm looking at some of the starts he had for the Pacers last year, and Tobias Harris, by the way, game time decision. Nothing really changes with that information. But so last year we saw McConnell make a handful of starts for the Pacers. 31 minutes, 26 minutes. That was a game he got into foul trouble, though. Other games, 34 minutes, 33 minutes, 33, 27, 35, 33. We're probably looking like 32 to 34 minutes. And honestly, if you give him 30 minutes or you give him 33, it makes somewhat of a difference in terms of projection. Wouldn't make a difference in terms of how many of my lineups he lands in. I'm going to play him in as many lineups as possible if he starts in place of Halliburton.
Correct.
The next question we have in here is from T. Lee. Top single entry plays for you and Eric. So this gets a little tough because like right now, I think a lot of the chalky players just make sense, right? But I'm going to be making pivots based on who gets ruled in or gets ruled out. But how about we do it this way? Is there a lower owned player that you like playing in single entry tournaments right now?
Is there a lower owned player that they're almost all going to be high end guys. Like I think that's probably more of the discussion point we can have. I hate Najee Marshall right now. I will say at his current ownership, I do not like him. Also, that's just a lineup spot that I could probably turn into something else and just be a lot happier in that if Halliburton sits. But if I had to answer right now, I'd say a 5% Nikola Jokic just because he could be getting Okongwu. And if Okongwu gets in foul trouble, Jokic without Jamal Murray has just been an absolute monster the last couple of years. And now Jamal Murray's been back, cutting into the usage. We're still waiting on an official word for what's going to happen here with Jamal Murray, but a downgrade to questionable is never ideal. More than likely, I'm guessing, going to be out for this one. Not that creates any kind of value. It might make Bruce Brown Jr. serviceable, but Nikola Jokic at 11.4, I would want to get to way more than 5% if you don't have Jamal Murray on the floor.
I am going to say Lauri Markkanen as of now.
Love
so a couple of reasons to like Lauri Markkanen. First of all, I like the flexibility it gives us. He's in that late start spot. If something happens with Halliburton, it gives us extra flexibility to swap. But in addition, his price has come down a little bit as of late, and he is much less popular than some of the other chalky Jazz players. Not to say that Markkanen's going unowned, but he has about half the ownership of Jordan Clarkson, half the ownership of Colin Sexton. If Markkanen has a really big game, it stands to reason that Sexton, Clarkson, one of them are going to see decreased usage, and they are not going to be quite as effective. So I like the little bit of leverage we're getting on Markkanen there off of those guys. So at least as of now, I'll give Markkanen as my single entry answer.
Love it. I have a lot of him. I have a lot of Jazz players just because of that game. Again, 239 total, almost a 240 total there. Everybody feels underpriced. Kelly Olynyk, Jared Vanderbilt are already pulling ownership. I think Lauri Markkanen at 7,900 gives you the most salary and flexibility out of anybody else in that game.
Yeah, and once again, the actual answer is players get ruled out in late swapping.
Yeah.
Right? So I do think that, like I said, as of right now, if things were to start right now, I would go with the low ownership on Markkanen relative to the chalky Jazz players. But I also like how he gives us the flexibility being in a later time slot to swap to other guys. Josh, 111 wants to know, for FanDuel, shooting guard seems really tough. If Murray gets ruled out, Bruce Brown looks great. If Halliburton gets ruled out, Mathurin looks great. Sexton already looks great. Who is our favorite shooting guard play on FanDuel?
On FanDuel, I mean, Terry Rozier has... Yeah, I get it. Like this Washington-Charlotte thing with the first game, I don't have much of it on DK. I don't really see a reason outside of Kuzma, Porzingis, Rozier that I would want to get to much of anything. I get it if you get to a share, two of McDaniel, some of these other guys, but shooting guard Terry Rozier there on FanDuel, 7,400. Shooting guard, point guard eligibility, that'd be just fine by me, even though you want to keep lineup spots open today.
Yeah, I'm going to say Kyrie Irving on FanDuel. The price point on him on both FanDuel and DraftKings, it's very low. We're looking at him in the low 8K range, and the usage has been there for Kyrie. There's no Ben Simmons, which means that there's extra opportunity for more assists for Kyrie, more time with the ball in his hands. He took a bunch of shots last game. He scored 27 points. He was very inefficient. I think this is a good buy low spot for Kyrie. The price is down. The ownership is down. It's in a game against the Toronto Raptors that I assume should be fairly high scoring. The total in that game is at 223. So, not the highest total on the slate, but somewhere in the middle of the road. It's also a game that has some rivalry implications, which could mean that we get extended minutes from guys like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. At his price point and also low ownership on Kyrie, that's going to be my answer for shooting guard in tournaments.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it. Hashtag stop playing Kyrie. Why? He's very good at basketball. He might be a dipshit, but he's very good at basketball.
And by the way, last game, I'll pull this up because off the top of my head, Kyrie had a fairly high usage rate. Didn't have a terrible fantasy game. It wasn't great either. He scored like 42 fantasy points at a low price. Didn't break the slate, but was serviceable relative to what his salary was. He was like 8,300 or something like that and put up 42 fantasy points. But the real key here, like I said, is that there's no Ben Simmons right now, and we're going to start to see that playing time go up for Kyrie Irving, which we also saw last game. So Kyrie played 38 minutes last game. He only shot 42% from the field. If he has just some normal efficiency for himself, I mean, you're going to start to look at 50-plus fantasy point games for Kyrie, and I'd rather be ahead of it than behind. So Kyrie, for me, is a player who's getting slept on in tournaments.
Love it. Did you see anything that happened while you were talking?
I heard Duke bark.
Duke barked, and then he had to come in because he's feeling a little anxious without mom there. Sometimes he's fine with the door closed, and then other times he's just like, I have to be immediately on. Yep, he's going to just come and sit on my foot. Like, that's just what's going to happen. Yep, rolling over on my foot. That's great.
All right, well, there you go. But how much bigger does he get from here?
Oh, dude, he is ginormous.
I know he's big now, but like, how much bigger does he get?
Another 15 pounds. He's at 105 now. He's just a monster, absolute unit.
It's a big.
If we get enough likes, I'll bring him up here at the end of the show.
All right, guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You might get to see Duke in the post-lock show. Super chat from Shane Daly. Sexton, Bruce Brown, and Keldon Johnson versus Sexton, Derek White, and Keldon Johnson. All right, so Keldon Johnson,
it's a 2v2.
It's a 1v. It's Colin Sexton and Keldon Johnson are on both sides. So it's Bruce Brown versus Derek White. I prefer Bruce Brown.
Yeah, Derek White not in play for me really today.
Abel Ramos, 3 lineups tonight. Good idea to fade Washington versus Charlotte. Yeah, I have no issue with that.
None whatsoever. Also, can I just talk about how bad of a play Derek White is? Derek White, do not play Derek White. Done.
Yeah, I'm not going to be playing Derek White today. Thank you for telling me, though. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was important that you knew.
And all right, we're caught up on those super chats. Just going back to the Discord to see what we have in here. First, from CSLELTST. Would you play both Rozier and McDaniels in a single entry? No, just because I prefer to have the flexibility today.
Samesies.
Jets World, if Capella is out and Murray is out, how big of a priority is Jokic for you in high dollar GPP? If Murray doesn't play with also Michael Porter out, I think Jokic is pretty clearly the top pay up option on the slate.
Done. Yeah, that's why I brought him up. He's currently sub 5%, but I would want an egregious amount of him if I can get there and we get that news well ahead of time before that game locks.
Cream, do you like Vooch on DK? Not really.
No, I don't like Vooch. I don't like anybody from that Golden State Chicago game for the most part, other than Zach LaVine.
Hef Love, does interest wane in Culver for value with Bogdanovich? And the interest in Culver is very dependent on Trae Young being out. Even then, I don't really like him all that much. But to me, what happens with who's in or who's out for the Hawks amongst the questionable guys is much more important than Bogdanovich right now.
Agreed.
JEW, DK single entry, any must-haves or someone worth it for the first game or just fade? As of right now, I have unselected the first game. It's not in any of my lineups. I think there are individual players that would make sense. Rozier, PJ Washington. I just prefer to give myself the lineup flexibility, and I hope nobody crushes in the first game.
Yeah, I have 5% Terry Rozier. I have 3% of Bradley Beal. That's kind of interesting. I've not played any Bradley Beal this year. That's weird. Kristaps Porzingis, I have a couple shares of. Mason Plumlee, I have 2% of. But yeah, I'm way underneath. This is like a perfect day to go into Cruncher, cap those guys at like 10% or 5%, whatever you kind of want. I want the same maneuverability you do, so I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, and by the way, we still do not have any official news on some of those guys who are questionable. So just to reiterate the players who we are waiting on, and Eric and I, if any of this news breaks during the next 60 minutes, we'll be hitting on. But don't forget, sticking around for the post-lock show. Eric and I, 30 minutes after lock, we'll be sitting here. We'll be talking about No House Advantage, the sponsor of today's show. If you guys haven't signed up yet, you should be doing it because he got a lot of overlay over at NHA. They've got props you could play against the house now. And if you sign up by clicking on our link, up to a $50 bonus on the first deposit. You guys can find that link below in the video description box. But questionable players that we're waiting on, that hopefully we'll get news on after lock. Trae Young, Tyrese Halliburton, Jamal Murray, Clint Capella, Tobias Harris. Those are the big ones right now. So waiting on all of that news. And I guess I should just build lineups and start uploading them now so I have something that's in there. But that's also why I've excluded the first game, because nothing I do now really makes a difference, I feel like, in terms of what I upload. I just want to have flexibility.
The question, I guess, to answer the person and the people who are playing cash today, is this a day you would want to play Terry Rozier in cash?
For me, not. He would have to be higher owned for me to want to play him in cash.
I think so too. But I'm looking at FanDuel specifically because that was kind of the question we had from the one person. I just think there's so many good pieces like Colin Sexton, Cameron Payne, Jordan Clarkson. Those are 3 guards. I don't think I would want to use up a guard spot, especially because I would turn that into TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, and pay up options in cash. I'm with you. I think even in cash today, I wouldn't be playing anybody from that first game.
And anybody else? So actually, when I was just running my lineups before I took the first game out, the player I was actually getting the most of was PJ Washington from that game. So I would be pretty tilted if PJ Washington has a big game. But like I said, I'm just taking that game out because I'm hoping for better situations to open up later.
I'm going to join you. I'm going to take it all out. I'm going to remove it. I think I'm with you. I keep like debating what I want to get to, and I'm like, they're going to be this popular already. I'd rather just have 0. It's kind of the way I felt about Luka the other time when I had like 77%. I was like, Why am I not just playing 100? Went to 100. He put up 80. It felt good.
Yeah, no, I think this is the way to play this slate. It's going to give us the most opportunity for low owned plays with a lot of upside.
God, what in the world? I will say one thing that's happening so I have one set of projections that I keep uploading for what I believe Indiana would be with, and then one without Tyrese Halliburton. I have a ton of sped ups. I think the most important thing is figuring out how much Embiid and Joker and then Giannis and Antetokounmpo, they all lock at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you get Halliburton out, those are three very core pieces that are at 3,600 to 3,800. You want to almost, if you're playing the slate the way you and I are, I would almost want to preload some high upside options from that first wave. Like, I think you would almost be doing it incorrectly. Like, we'll know about Jamal Murray as we get closer, but I think you want to be building lineups that have the top end guys just in case already. Just kind of throwing that out there. It's one thing that I find interesting where making that assumption, if it comes out after 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, people will not be able to get to Joker and Giannis. I guess Embiid shows up at 8 p.m. Eastern time. People will get to him regardless if you get no Tobias Harris, just because they'll have the flexibility. But I think that that's an important part of this slate too.
I've got some news here.
Cool.
Trae Young not seen on the court warming up. Now, what does that mean? Duke has an answer, apparently. But with Trae Young not warming up, I think that it seems he's more likely to be out than play right now. And Clint Capella is on the court warming up, by the way.
So we're going to get Capella in and we're going to get Trae Young out more than likely. That is just all kinds of cluster F.
I mean, once again, him not warming up, and this is just based on, I saw this is from, I'm going to butcher his last name, Kevin Chouinard. No sign of Trae Young warming up yet. He would normally be warming up in an earlier time slot. He is a writer for the Hawks. He's a beat reporter. He's at the game right now. So I'm going to say right now, the odds of Trae Young sitting, fairly high.
Okay, I'm going to take him out. And then welcome to the party, DeJounte Murray.
Eat my shorts. Everyone keeps asking about, should they play the first game Teo and thank me later and see me at the top?
What? No, don't play the first game.
I think we're not going to. Okay, so eat my shorts. Everyone keep asking about, should they play the first game Theo and thank me later and see me at the top?
That was like a Mad TV Ebonics skit. That's what it sounded like. You know, when they do like the call and response thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but I'm trying to. I don't think this is a question. I think he's just saying he's playing Teo Maladon.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not playing Teo either. Thank you, though. I know.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Eat my shorts. We do appreciate the super chat.
Chill.
I'm still. I hope I answered that, and I hope that's what he wanted out of the super chat.
I hope so too, because if he didn't, too effing bad.
Did you watch? You would be the kid who watched Mad TV instead of SNL.
I watched SNL primarily, but there were like certain things from Mad TV that just kind of stuck out to me. And it was also like around the time iTunes. Remember when you used to buy different stuff on iTunes? They had like the little skits that you could buy for 99 cents. And I would like get the ones that I really thought were funny and keep those on my iPod, like the old school iPod.
Teo Maladon's not a good play, by the way. I know Eat My Shorts is just saying play Teo. Don't play Teo Maladon.
Don't play
just
Teo
please
Maladon.
Don't play Teo Maladon.
For the love of all that's good and righteous, do not play Teo Maladon.
Here's the issue with Teo Maladon. He's
sucks.
not good. Terry Rozier is back today.
Yep.
And now watch him just go out and smash. But there's potential for so many better value plays today. I have let me see. How many fantasy points do I have Maladon for? I haven't thought about him at all today. Maladon, I have Teo Maladon project. Oh, I spelled his name wrong. Maladon. Oh, you know why I can't find him? Because I took the Charlotte Washington game out. Okay, so now I'll be able to find him. Yeah, I haven't projected for 19 fantasy points.
It's not great.
He's over 4K now. It's not the worst points per dollar play on the entire slate, but it's not a good one. And there's going to be a lot of better options. Don't play him. Don't play him.
Just say no.
Another super chat from Jorge Giacomi. Is it bad to play Roby and Collins together? What's your thoughts on how chalk they are? Okay, so right now we have the ownership on Roby at 25% and Collins at 26%. These are two of the three most popular players on DraftKings. As of right now, am I over or underweight to the field on these guys? I am over on Zach Collins. I am under on Isaiah Roby. With this being said, though, a good chance that depending who gets ruled out later in the game, I'm under on Zach Collins also. It happened the other day. I was overweight to the field on Zach Collins, the slate where he was, 50% owned. And then by the time the games actually started and I made some late swaps, I had him in almost none of my lineups. So for right now, Zach Collins, I'm a little bit overweight to the field. I'm underweight to Roby. What are you doing with the chalky Spurs guys?
Yeah, I'm the same right now. I'm under on every Spur except for Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins. I'm over on.
Another super chat here from Morphatrix. Who are your priority payups in a single entry tournament on FanDuel, assuming Halliburton sits and you have extra cash from plugging in TJ? So priority spend ups. This is also going to be a little tricky because it's going to depend on some injury scenarios, but under the assumption that Trae Young does not play, I think DeJounte Murray should be one. And if Jamal Murray doesn't play, I definitely think that that Jokic becomes one of the priority spend ups.
Yep, Jokic would become very, very interesting. And regardless, if the news doesn't break that way, find the 300, get to Embiid. If you're going to have extra lineup spots like you should, I think for tournaments for single entry, you're trying to capitalize on the prime spot. I think that being Indiana, Utah, regardless of site, DraftKings or FanDuel, things break your way. Jokic would be priority spend up at center. Also, like, I'm just looking at the center spots here on FanDuel. I'm not playing over there today, so that makes it different. Want to make sure. It looks as though you have almost everybody power forward or small forward that you would have from that Utah side. Like you could go Kelly Olynyk, everybody like that. Nobody would be distinct center. So yeah, I would definitely be paying up at the center position on FanDuel because all the value would exist at guard and forward.
Some more questions to bang out here. This one from Sniffs. If Halliburton's out, do you make a rule for the guards? No, I would just end up playing a shit ton of TJ McConnell. That
an outrageous amount. I already have preloaded 65% of TJ McConnell. So let's hope that breaks that way. That would be great.
Mr. Moneybags, Keldon Johnson or Rozier for a DK GPP. I prefer Keldon Johnson. Do you have a lean between the two?
Yeah, Keldon Johnson later game.
Any Porzingis love? This is a question from Jets World. Centers normally smash against Charlotte, and he looks really good lately. If he wasn't in the first game, maybe I'd be getting to him, but no, I took that game out of my player pool, and I'm hoping that nobody goes nuts. I don't love the pricing in that spot either.
I love how you're the one who talked me into being more aggressive about that, because I've been banging the drum on just don't play the first game forever, and I was still getting to a little bit of it. Just disturbing. I think part of it is just realizing Rozier is out there by himself. Like Kelly Oubre can do some things. Mason Plumlee's cheap, but like 7,600 Terry Rozier is by far my scariest fate on today's slate now.
The next question is from Cream. Did we get to any of Joel Embiid? Not really.
I will be getting to some Joel Embiid if Harris is out. I can guarantee you that.
So Tobias Harris is now expected to play, by the way. I don't think he's been ruled in officially, but he is expected to play. Okay,
did that just come through and I missed it? CJ McCollum will play. Let's see. Where did it go? Find it. Yep, Tobias Harris. No, I'm seeing game time decision.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's
expected to play. Yeah, he's okay. Good to know.
So my filler arc Tobias, not officially, but is expected to play. Pay up for Embiid or Morant. I prefer. Let's see, who do I've projected better amongst those two? Embiid or Morant. I have a better projection on Embiid. So if it's a 1v1, I'd say Embiid.
Or Morant, yeah. And I'm a Morant stan. That did not go last slate. I can tell you that, against Minnesota of all teams. Why wouldn't they go out and win that game? Now they're sitting here favored by 5 at home against Philly. What a time to be alive. It's just so hard for me to pay up for a guard today. I think that's primarily where you're looking at getting a ton of value from the Indiana side. You have Clarkston and Sexton that you can turn some of those shares into, depending on when that news comes out. Already good plays. You could just jam them and be fine with it. it's so hard to get up to a spend up. So if Ja goes for 70 or 80, sweet, congratulations. You're probably sitting on the nuts, but range of outcomes, I would much rather be paying up for center and forward today.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it seems like we're not very far away from finding out that Trae Young is not playing today, and then that'll be DeJounte Murray is somebody that I'd prefer as a guard option over Ja Morant, but Embiid is my option if it's Embiid versus Morant.
Totally.
Question we have here is from There Is No Competition. Ugly. Is Damian Lee a viable value with all the injuries to the Suns versus Houston? No.
No.
Where do I have Damian Lee projected? Damian Lee, I don't have a terrible projection on Damian Lee, so maybe I should roll back and say not as hard of a no, because I have him for 21 fantasy points, and he's pretty cheap today. I still don't get to him, though, because I think there's better value plays and even better ones will open up. If you're in a pinch and it's the last man in, I would say that based on the projection I have, I think he's viable. I assume that there's going to be better plays later, but I'll roll it back. I'll say that if you absolutely need to play him, it's okay.
There you go.
How are you doing on your lineups?
I'm just finishing it up. I've got 1 minute and I'll be all good to go here. Just making sure that everything is as it needs to be for one TJ McConnell to be ready to smash.
Yeah, so 2 minutes until the slate locks, but Eric and I are not going to be going anywhere, sticking around for the next 30 minutes. We're talking about some bets, going to be talking about some props, going to be talking about NHA. We're going to be sweating the one game that's ongoing. We're going to root for low scores. We're going to root for nothing to happen. But also, if you guys do duck out in a couple minutes, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, if you do not have access to Stokastic.com, if you guys have never signed up before, 3-day free trial for anybody signing up for the first time. Check out all the stuff we have behind the paywall, and it's no risk to you. 3 days for free. In the lineups that you've built, Eric, anything coming out as a surprise to you?
Nothing is a surprise yet. Again, we still are going to have an extra 32 minutes to build lineups. I am getting to a lot of DeJounte Murray. Again, I said no spending up at guard. I have 20% DeJounte Murray. I thought I would get even a little bit more of him absent Trae Young. I might have to go back and check these rates again. But just under the assumption that Trae Young's going to be out, I think Bogdanovich kills a lot of the value. Jarrett Culver, completely different situation, not having Bogdanovich out there. Jarrett Culver, just not somebody that I'm going to be playing in any way, shape, or form, even though I said he was going to get brought up. Oh my God, Jamal Murray available to play. That is such a cluster.
Yeah, so Murray is available to play. He was seen warming. This is my thing now. It goes back to last year when players are game time decisions. I look for videos of them warming up on Twitter. That was where I came away with the Trae Young thing from before.
Trae Young ruled out.
There we go.
Clint Capella available to play, exactly as you said. Jalen Johnson available to play,
which means that Kaminsky's about to get. Oh, Kaminsky ruled in. So Nate McMillan, the dirty, filthy liar he is, maybe he just can't count. It's possible. I don't put anything like we've got that one coach, Glenn, for the 76ers. That guy's a moron. Who knows?
Moron.
These coaches, dirty, filthy liars, are not to be trusted. Overall, though, this is fairly insignificant that there is Frank Kaminsky. And I thought there was going to be 2 guys out for the Hawks because that was what their coach told us. Not the case. So here we go. No Trae Young. Let's look at some of the rates this year for this team. Sans Trae Young. What would you guess DeJounte Murray's usage rate is when Trae Young is not on the court this year?
I know because I have it up right now. I was just pulling it up. 30%.
31.1.
Under the course of from the data range of the 3rd of October until the 1st of December, I have exactly 30% usage for DeJounte Murray in 278 minutes without Trae Young on the floor.
All right. I see 31.1.
You're a liar. You're a liar. Join Nate McMillan in the liar's chair.
I only know what the information in front of me is. Either way, though.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear looking at these numbers per 36 minutes, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, all the usage. We pretty clearly want to be playing DeJounte Murray now.
So now the next part of the equation is who else do we want to get to? Because DeAndre Hunter also needs to be taken off the floor. That's just a guy who's going to be sharing minutes quite a bit. DeJounte Murray gets up to a 30.5% usage. AJ Griffin pretty naturally was going to be another guy that made sense. 23.2% usage, 116 minutes. But now the Bogdanovich thing just kind of sucks in this atmosphere. I was really hoping we were going to get Capella out too. I thought that would open up some opportunity to at least play some more of these rotational guys and get there. I'm probably more inclined to sit and wait with some pieces. I think Clint Capella is a great tournament play. DeJounte Murray is obviously a slam dunk. I don't think I want to get to any AJ Griffin, especially now that on DraftKings he's sitting there. He's sitting at 4,500. That's not exactly a zero kind of price tag. I assume Bogdanovic is going to be starting. If we get AJ Griffin starting and Bogdanovic coming off the bench, there are a lot of ways that those 20 minutes can get chopped up for him. I'll be paying attention to that. Aaron Holiday is the flat 3K, but he is so bad as a fantasy performer that I don't know if even with Trae Young off the floor, I can get myself to pull the trigger on anything there. Much more inclined to keep lineup spots open for the potential of Indiana. Jalen Johnson, Frank Kaminsky, I don't know. Jalen Johnson, maybe you can get to a share or two of it, but I don't really think so with Clint Capella, and I would much rather sit and wait on that too.
Yeah, so the big thing here is with there being Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson, and Frank Kaminsky all in, I think it does hurt some of the cheap guys that we otherwise would have considered.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, DeJounte Murray, pretty clearly the top play. I don't really have a good feel for what the starting lineup is going to be, though.
If I had to guess, I would say Bogdan starts. We've seen Kawhi Leonard in LA come off the bench at times here. It's kind of a weird thing because I'm like, if you warmed up and you're out on the floor, why would you want to sit down on the bench to cool down and then get going? I think it's going to be Murray, Bogdanovic, Culver, Capella, Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, let's Nasir. I see when I see alerts come up on my phone, I always assume it's going to be something significant, and then it's Nasir Little, who the Blazers aren't even playing today, are out for 6 weeks. But I'm definitely waiting on that starting lineup because it's going to impact how I view some of the value plays. But just to kind of sum up the Trae Young being out situation, how high of a priority is DeJounte Murray going to be for you now?
Very high priority. I already preloaded. I said I was getting to right around 25%. I already took Trae Young off at that point in time. I said I just have to finish adjusting some of the stuff. He's going to do everything for this basketball team. And, you go with Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter off the floor. He's a 1.36 fantasy point per minute guy. And I'm going to be jamming a lot of Clint Capella too, because who's number 2 in that regard? Well, no, he's actually number 1. 1.47 DraftKings points per minute. Clint Capella, you can't get to enough of these guys. You can play as much of them as you want, regardless of what we're waiting on for Indiana.
We got a question from Big Dream in our Discord channel. He wants to know, what do we think about Jared Culver? I need to see the starting lineup. If he comes off the bench, then I definitely don't have real interest in him. If he starts, though, then I think you could at least make a case for him as a punt play. But I am looking to get that starting lineup, which we're going to get before the show ends, because we're here for another 25 minutes. That's when the game locks. I would assume in the next 5-10 minutes we get a starting lineup for the Hawks, and then we could circle back on Culver and what else we make from the cheaper guys from the Hawks. But we know for sure now, we both like DeJounte Murray a lot. I love Clint Capella for tournaments. Yeah, I didn't look. Has Capella seen any rate changes this year?
Oh, buddy. It's only a 10-minute sample size with no Trae Young and no DeAndre Hunter.
I don't care.
But with no Trae Young alone, we've got a much bigger sample size for Capella. He's been north of a fantasy point per minute guy in those 43 minutes. It's a very small, negligible type number. Under all circumstances, though, Clint Capella continues to be a 1.13 guy. So I do expect that to come up. Him and DeJounte Murray, it's going to be a lot of opportunity for both of them. But for me, it's the equation of what are people going to like. Clint Capella is the guy who I think it would have been a no-brainer. Okongwu would have been jammed. But now Q tag next to him, 6,300. He's more expensive than Zach Collins, than Kelly Olynyk, than a lot of these other guys. He's not as high upside of an option as what you get from Embiid. Jokic is definitely coming down for me with Jamal Murray active. I think Clint Capella is definitely somebody I want to be getting north of 10-15% of.
Yeah, no, I think that is definitely sensible. I'm also curious, Tyler, can you pull up No House Advantage? I want to look at the props, and we'll look at them just in general. But I'm curious to see if they have any Hawks props up right now that maybe we could take advantage of. Because I know there was a scenario where there was I think this might have been before your Paris trip, Eric, where somebody got ruled out. We went and looked at no house advantage, and the line was still a little bit old. So let's see if we could pick off any of those situations from NHA. And Tyler, if you could share that on the screen, that would be helpful because I don't have access to NHA from New Jersey. So we'll pull that up while we are, here we go. All right. Tyler, quick with it. I love it.
He's got it.
Unfortunately, I can't see anything because
shout out Rinpack, Steve Buzzard in the chat. Hello to both of them. Nothing like having two of the top 10 players on planet Earth just hanging out in chat, listening to our every word. Normal stuff.
I love the zoom in. Can you keep scrolling down, Tyler, or actually click? See top left, Denver, Atlanta. Click on that. Let's see if anything pops up. Like if you click on the game individually, just so it would sort by those players.
That's the sorted, pal.
Okay. I was confused by it.
It's literally just Jokic, yeah.
Okay, so only Jokic. So all right, no Hawks players. They've all been pulled off the board. By the way, how many likes do we need to get for Duke to pop up on screen, Eric? It seems like he's probably going to do it of his own accord anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say at this rate, we're looking at him just doing it anyway. There's hammering going on underneath me. I kind of feel bad for him. There's some people moving in right below us, and so he's just
that's Seth's wife.
Oh boy, we did get AJ Griffin starting. Okay, it's basically exactly what I said, thinking Bogdanovich was going to start. Just not Bogdanovich. It's AJ Griffin.
All right, yeah. So starting lineup for the Atlanta Hawks: DeJounte Murray, Jared Culver, AJ Griffin, Jalen Johnson, Clint Capella. Not exactly the starting lineup I thought. This is definitely a interesting starting lineup to say the least. This is going to be a tough game for the Hawks to win. This is not a great lineup.
No, they are in deep shit.
All right, so let's start talking about some of these cheap guys. Considering this is now the starting lineup, what are you going to be doing with guys like Jalen Johnson, Jared Culver, AJ Griffin? Any of these players that you think you're going to be prioritizing in lineups?
So the AJ Griffin thing, the Jalen Johnson thing feels like very volatile. He's a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. Frank Kaminsky is active, which is yikes. Okongwu's behind there and Capella's there. If you had Capella off, Jalen Johnson, Kaminsky, like everybody could have been in play to some extent there. But because of that behind him, also Jarrett Culver can play the 4 if need be. Like I think that's something that's in his repertoire. So I don't want to get too gung-ho on Jalen Johnson. AJ Griffin is tough for me. Like this is a really tough one. We saw the one start for him 36 minutes against Cleveland, but again, that was no Bogdanovich, and that's 20 minutes that Bogdanovich has to see. I know no Trae Young, so that's nifty, but 4,500 doesn't exactly make you feel all that good about it. I'm going to put him at 28 minutes. He was out of play for me around 24 minutes, which is where I had him earlier. I'm going to put him at 28. And if you end up having him in a timeshare with Bogdanovich there, Aaron Holiday still exists. I think he's still the guy who's going to be backing up DeJounte Murray. I don't want to give AJ Griffin more than 28 minutes, and he's just not going to project out that well for me at 4,500.
The big thing for me is that he is expensive. Well, not expensive, but more expensive relative to Jared Culver, more expensive than Jalen Johnson. So if I'm going to rank these guys in terms of how I'm prioritizing them, and I'm going to get to these guys, but none of them are players that are going to be like my most rostered, I don't think. Well, I'll
no
rerun
chance.
And then I'll know. But it's for me right now, Culver 1, Jalen Johnson 2, Griffin 3.
Let's check this. Jared Culver, yeah, he's not going to play 4. I think I might have been a little bit. I just remember him being bigger at Texas Tech. I went to Minneapolis for the Final Four the year that they played in the finals. Lost to Virginia, I believe it was. But Jared Culver, yeah, he's only 6'6". So just in Minnesota, I don't know why. I just always felt like he was taller than that. But regardless, he'll strictly be playing 3. I think Jalen Johnson and Kaminsky are going to be in a timeshare. I think you're going to see DeJounte Murray and Aaron Holiday split time at the point guard. Obviously, much more in the lion's share of DeJounte Murray. I think you're going to see Bogdanovich backing up Griffin. I'm just not going to get to a lot of this team. A lot less interesting when you got at least Capella in there. Maybe I would have played some more Jalen Johnson if you just had everybody out. I think everybody would have played him along with the Kungwu, but as it stands right now, I think there's enough bodies there. It's not all that appealing to me. Outside of Jarrett Culver, 3,700, I'll get to a little bit.
Yeah, so circling back on the question we had from Big Dream, what I think about Culver. Now that he's starting, I think he's a good value option. And for cash games, also, I do think he's cash game viable as well. Jared Culver at his price point.
Yeah, Joey Bacon, he's listed as 6'6". Again, I thought he was bigger. I sat, courtside at a Clippers game. I remember seeing him when they played the Timberwolves and he was on the Timberwolves. I thought he was taller than that for some reason. He's got like a bigger body than what I thought 6'6" would be, but everybody's pretty tall when you're, a 6'2" white boy on the sidelines like me. Everybody's gigantic.
Something that was pretty funny. There was a fan at a Knicks game who had a half court shot a couple weeks ago. One of those ones for like 10 grand or whatever, which by the way, the most insane thing ever. Cause like, hey, you want all of your medical bills paid off? The good news is we could do it for you. The bad news is you have to hit a half court shot. And people get really excited. Like I never understood. It's like, wait, you could pay these people's bills for them, but you're making them jump through these hoops. So anyway, the guy hits the half court shot. He makes a decent amount of money. He goes really crazy. He runs up the Knicks bench to go like high five players and stuff. And he does one of the running jumps into RJ Barrett. And that really gives you a good feel for how much bigger NBA players are than normal. Because this is like a normal size guy. And then you still get like, but RJ Barrett is 8 inches taller than him and weighs 100 pounds more than him and just destroyed him when he jumped into him. But anyway,
Eric playing basketball is a hilarious image. Sean V, I have been waiting to block you all week. I have been waiting for this opportunity all week. You are a joke. You need to figure your life out. There you go. Now I'm better. Go ahead. I'll unblock him at some point. Not today. Not today.
Sean, I recommend you follow Eric on Twitter and incessantly tweet at him for the next.
If you tweet me again, I will block you on Twitter too. And then he's like, 2024. Just goodbye. I have waited all my life. It's terrible. I'm telling you, it's not terrible. Everybody's quality of life in the chat and here personally just got so much better. Look at this. Look at this. Eric Big Bad. Yeah. Hammer time.
Eric drops the hammer. Anthony DLC left a super chat for that. I have to say though that I'm on team Sean V for a long time. I have been trying to get Eric fired and replaced with Sean V. So I'm just saying that's where I stand on it. Sean, go on Twitter, make your case where you have more of access to Eric. Also, his DMs are open. I don't know if they are on. I would recommend you DM him also. Possibly a penis picture.
I'm blocking him as you're talking. This is going to be great.
I think you should at least give him the opportunity to make his case on Twitter.
Okay, I will. Sean V. I can't with you right now. He tried to got me on Twitter about something that I said about Julius Randle. When I gave out the exact exposure, 28% of what I played on Julius Randle on Wednesday or Tuesday, it was the 3-game slate. He flat out was like, you said Julius Randle was a terrible play. No, I didn't. I said I don't like him as a real life basketball player. That was the exact quote. Greg is shaking his head. He spends all this time with me. I played Julius Randle.
I'm agreeing with Sean, not you. That's why I'm not. That's why I'm nodding my head. I think Sean's right. Let's hit on some of these Discord questions now.
1,000 likes to see Duke and to never hear from Sean ever again in chat.
If Halliburton is out, do you think Jalen Smith, Mathurin, and McConnell will be in the closing lineup? That is from XX Cubs fan 23XX. Trying to predict the minutes for Jalen Smith, it is very difficult to do. I can't confidently say he's going to be in the closing lineup. Sometimes Jalen Smith plays 18 minutes. Sometimes he plays 9 minutes. Sometimes he plays 35 minutes. It's really hard to know. I'm pretty confident that McConnell and Mathurin will be in the closing lineup. Jalen Smith, I don't know, and it's unrelated to the Halliburton situation.
Yeah, 4,700, Jalen Smith, somebody I'm already getting to, so I will say that. In 19 minutes, the guy can put up 35, 40. He's just that kind of a dude. He's just another piece of that game that I have shares of as it is, because I want shares of pretty much everybody from that game.
Some more questions here. Mr. Moneybags, if Capella starts, do you like him better than Collins?
What? Capella is starting. We just got the starting lineup. Also, somebody said Murray's not starting. Murray is starting.
Yeah.
DeJounte Murray. Are we talking, are we looking at like the lineup for the Nuggets? Let me see. Did that come out? Nuggets will start Murray Coldplay. I don't know what you're talking about. Murray is starting in both. Now I'm just tilted because Sean V, I saw his face again. And oh my God, when I see your face, there's not a black button I wouldn't hit. I don't know.
Just keep tweeting at him, Sean. I think get Eric's attention. I think that's what really you need to hash this out. Maybe
he needs more attention. That's what Sean needs. We need to talk about him more on these streams because this isn't exactly what he wants.
Jets World.
We're all idiots.
Who plays backup for Atlanta tonight? Backup point guard, I assume you mean? Backup point guard. By the way, I'm also getting to a lot of Clint Capella right now.
Good man.
Backup point guard, I assume, is going to be Aaron Holiday. I think that's a reasonable assumption.
Oh, Wagner or Trey Murphy? Neither. And I love Trey Murphy. He's my boy. But Najee Marshall available to play. CJ McCollum back. Don't do this to yourself. You don't need to play Trey Murphy today. I get it. He might play a lot. He's 5,700. I remember the days of playing him at 3K at 1% ownership and him going for 50. That was such a good day.
Next question.
Go ahead.
T. Lee, favorite forward and center plays for DK today. So for me right now, my favorite forwards and centers that I'm getting to are Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson, Lauri Markkanen, and Zach Collins.
So you got to Jalen Johnson?
Yes.
I got to 5%. I don't even want that. I just am worried that it's going to be him and Frank Kaminsky. Like, I'm almost thinking I might play a tiny bit of Frank Kaminsky because, like, what if Frank Kaminsky comes out and plays well? Does he have upside for 20 minutes, 25 minutes as a guy who...
Well, he's not going to play alongside Capella, though.
No, that's true. That's true. I'm taking him out. I never was thinking that. I'm just trying to get these minutes figured out one more time as I double check myself for the, I don't know. Did we just increase Bogdanovich to 23 minutes? We did over at Stokastic. All right. That's what was going on. Feels like a pretty strict timeshare there for Aaron Holiday could end up playing more, and then I'm going to just lose my mind. I'm not playing him. I think he's an awful play, but just throwing it out there. I am not getting to Jalen Johnson. I am getting to 2% AJ Griffin. I'm getting to 15% Jared Culver, 41% Clint Capella, and 48% DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, so for me, in terms of exposure, I'm getting two Hawks guys. Number 1 is Murray, 2 is Culver, 3 is Jalen Johnson, 4 is Capella.
How much Capella, though?
He is in about half my lineups.
Oh, God. Okay, so you have a ton of Jared Culver.
Yeah, I've got... So the one I have, I'm getting to... Culver also. Culver's in about half my lineups right now. Same for Jalen Johnson. Murray's in basically everything for me.
Dookie.
Is he trying to get on camera?
No, I think he's like dead asleep. You okay, bud?
Pooped himself out?
Guess so. I don't know what he did. I've never seen him this tired before. I took him on a walk because I try to tire him out before shows. It's just kind of, a good thing to do. And then he is like stone cold out.
Well, I guess that means that he's not going to be making his. You're not going to be waking him up to bring him on the show.
Oh, I'll wake him up to do that because I got to take him out again anyway. I want to go tire him out and then, just make my swaps before 6:00 my time. It'll be fine.
Jorge Giacomi, should I cry if I'm getting on my first late swap? 70% Jared Culver.
Oh, hi.
Depends how many lineups you're playing. But in general, I actually don't really have an issue with that after seeing how I projected.
I have a problem with it, but I get it. Dario Saric is going to start. What?
Super Dario? It's been a minute since we saw him play. So Saric has been so far out of sight, out of mind that I don't know what Tyler's doing right now.
Eric singing Nintendo copyrighted songs. Stop it.
If it makes you feel better, Tyler, he's not really. It's not like he's so in tune and so true to the original that this is going to get a copyright flag.
Anything else, I would agree with you. Nintendo, they are crazy about it.
Oh, are you gonna? I can't imagine that Dario Saric is somebody that I really want to get. He's played north of 13 minutes once the entire season, and he hasn't played in a game since November 18th.
This is wild. Wild fact. Wild what's going on here.
I can't imagine he's going to play all that much.
No, God, no. I can't believe you're getting to like more than half your lineups, Jared Culver, now, after you besmirched my take on Jared Culver, and now you're getting to him three times more than me. I did.
And then, but I didn't.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
Wrong, sir.
And then once he's starting, I'm like, okay. I really thought they were just going to start Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
All right. Why are my lineups not uploading? Upload CSV. Do it. Let's go back to Tyler. Could we go back to NHA? We didn't really find any props that we liked over at No House Advantage. So let's see if we could try to find ones that we do think are actionable over there. And okay, why is this still not working? Upload failed. What is going on here? This is going to be really annoying.
This organization will not tolerate failure. My father would womanize. He would drink. He'd make outrageous claims like he invented the question mark.
Do you see anything you like on No House Advantage, Eric?
I don't, by the way. I'm looking at the props. They look so damn efficient here. Let me see if there's one more. Let me go through one more time here. Versus the house. Again, promo code Stokastic. You can get free money that plays on it. So even if it is a 50-50 proposition, free money, you can put it to work, or you could just wait for a better spot. But either one. Let's see. I'm going through cross-reference. Kyrie Irving's up to 24.5 points. He's at 22.5 for pretty much every book. Maybe the under on that would make sense, but I don't even really want to do that because I'm pretty bullish on Kyrie. Let's see.
Yeah, I also, just in terms of odd shopping, you would think that has value, but that's not something I really want to do.
I don't either. I got one for you. Caleb Williams, over 324.5 passing yards. USC playing Utah tonight. You want to talk a little college foosball? USC is going to smash Utah's face in. Utah got bailed out by officials in Utah. They were on the road. It was the only game that Caleb Williams has not gone out and absolutely laid wood on it. You want to see a Heisman night tonight? Caleb Williams is going to put up a massive Heisman night. So regardless, I'm in LA, SC, I'm not a big fan by any means, but I got to say, Caleb Williams is it. We saw it at Oklahoma. We're going to see it at USC for 2 more years, and then he's going to go to the NFL and be the number 1 pick. Get ready. 324.5 passing yards. He's got 34.5 rushing yards. And there's another site where you can play the combination of the two. I like more on that one as well, but as it stands, 324.5 passing yards. Lock it up.
We've got a super chat from my filler arc. Porzingis smashing -0.5 fantasy points. So he's got more since then. It's a pretty nondescript game, though. So through the first 5 minutes of the game, Porzingis has 3 points, a steal, and then also a couple of turnovers. He also has a personal foul. The player that I am sweating right now, I believe, is Eric, as well as that Terry Rozier's off to a pretty good start. Nothing crazy, but he does have 6 real-life points in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Stop it.
So right now, pulling up some of the ownership that we have on DK. Rozier actually didn't end up being highly owned either. So, but the biggest fantasy game to this point is Kelly Oubre. Oubre has 11 fantasy points, 4 points, 3 rebounds, a steal, and an assist in the first 6 minutes of the game. But overall, nothing too crazy happening in that first game. And where they're at, I thought there was one more super chat. No. By the way, just because there seems to be some confusion about I don't know why there's confusion about DeJounte. Is this a DraftKings fuck up again with green check marks?
Stop it. Is it really?
No, but I serious. I don't know why people are confused about the starting lineup.
I don't
the
either.
starting lineup, just so, because we don't want people throwing bad information into the YouTube chat. Starting lineup one more time for the Hawks. DeJounte Murray is starting. Then it's Jared Culver, AJ Griffin, Jalen Johnson, and Clint Capella. I am playing all of the DeJounte Murray today.
Yeah, I have all the DeJounte Murray and all the lands and the kingdoms. They shall unite under one banner, and they shall take us to glory.
Are you going to do anything with Dario Saric?
No, I'm not playing him. He feels like a token starter. They have Ish Wainwright. They have a million guys that can at least put in functional rotation. They could. There's a lot of things that can happen there where it just doesn't pan out. He is flat 3K, but I don't think we have to do it today. God, I mean, for me, all that matters is that the Pacers work out the way that they're supposed to. Everything else is pretty inconsequential.
So Mark Langford is saying that he had a super chat we didn't answer. I don't
throw it in again. We'll answer it right now.
Yeah, don't leave it as a super chat. Just leave it as a question. I'll answer. I didn't see it though, and I just scrolled through all the super chats I have here, and it's not there. Fellas, DK Tiers, DeJounte Murray, or Pascal Siakam for Rosso Music. That is DeJounte Murray for me.
Yeah, DeJounte Murray in all of the things.
Yeah. By the way, once again, because I want to make sure we answer Mark's question. Mark, whatever it was, just throw it into chat, and I'll just read whatever it is that you put it in there. And by the way, it is. By the way, Eric, this was a DK check mark fuck up. They do not have Murray as a starter.
Suckers. How about that? It's like you went to the dentist and you got a sucker. Suckers.
But Tyler, did you see the super chat from Mark? Because I do want to make sure that we answer it if there was one before we leave.
Oh, from Mark Langford? Yeah, it just says free Sean V. So I don't know how Eric's going to take...
That was a super chat?
That was a super chat for $4.99.
Okay.
It's a pretty useless super chat, not going to lie.
Free Sean V. All right.
Yeah.
Mark's
we could also do lock him up forever, and I will give you Duke.
Is it time to... Oh, look at that. He's up.
Dookie. Hey, you little man.
This is my godson, Duke. He's a very good boy. He's up
buddy.
from his nap.
How's this for no house advantage free advertising? Right there for you.
That is... So for people who are not aware, Duke is my godson. He is one of my best friends, even though we've never met before, which really speaks to the limited amount of friends I have. But very frequently, Duke will hang out with Eric and myself after shows.
This is my little guy, my 105-pound little guy. He just turned 1 last week. So happy birthday to Duke. It's a year. We got him in January, but from Ames, Iowa, same spot that I went to college, born and raised for 2 months. And then, now LA, kicking it. Loving this weather. It's raining today.
He came on. Look how well behaved he is when he came on too. We're proud of you, Duke. Good boy.
He's
all
a
right,
good
guys.
Guy.
Thank you very much for watching. If you've not done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Duke demands it. Do it for Duke. Don't do it for myself. Don't do it for do it for Duke, the birthday boy. Once again, guys, thank you very much. Good luck tonight, and I hope we'll see you back here tomorrow.